381. Fishing, the king of figures sneak attacks. Axis's eyes lit up. Instead of roaming the galaxy to hunt down Trazyn the Infinite himself, it would be far smarter to make Trazyn come to him. What did Trazyn covet? Rare, strange, powerful collectibles. Exactly the sort of things Axis had in abundance. Between Axis himself and the Gene Seed Primarch in his possession, he was practically a walking museum any obsessive collector would die to study. Axis, we can do this, Kasha said. The ship recorded your recent battle. We can broadcast the footage across the Necron net. Given Trazyn's personality, he won't be able to resist. Let him take the bait. Axis nodded. The plan made perfect sense. His wife Kasha and her 40K-era counterpart exchanged amused smiles and high-fived. Axis pulled the surveillance footage from the ship, cleaned and enhanced the images, then keyed the transmission into the Necron communications array in front of him. It was a wideband, unencrypted broadcast. Any Necron overlord who picked up the signal could watch. The transmission raced outward at many thousands of times the speed of light. Within a few thousand light years, the feed had reached almost every Necron overlord nearby. What they saw was alarming. An ordinary human whose power rivaled a cosmic star god, capable of destroying a fleet in open space and fighting a Necron army single-handedly. The message spread panic and curiosity in equal measure. Most overlords ignored it. Many did not travel by ship and had pressing political and dynastic concerns. But two could not look away: Anrakir the Traveler and Trazyn the Infinite. Anrakir saw the footage because the battle had taken place over Zarathusa, the tomb world of the Mefrit dynasty, one he had recently left. Having just siphoned off a tenth of that dynasty's assets and forces, he felt a measure of responsibility for its safety. He turned his ship around without hesitation and headed back to Zarathusa. Trazyn's reaction was different. Watching Axis's methods, he mused aloud. Various energy attacks, not the compressed space signature of a cosmic star god, more like raw physical universe power. Could this realm be spawning another star god? The screen filled him with greedy delight. A specimen like this would be an incomparable addition to his collection. He dispatched a clone at once. Trazyn had a notorious reputation across the galaxy for thievery and for never exposing his true self. His real body always stayed hidden on his tomb world. He sent out constructs, clones, or, if necessary, possessed other Necron bodies with stolen code. That way he could haunt the galaxy and steal to his heart's content while keeping his true self safe. They did not have to wait long. A little over 2 months later, a massive fleet arrived in the Hades Gate region. The new arrivals were led by Anrakir the Traveler. Axis allowed himself a satisfied smile. Anrakir was not the collector he hoped for, but his presence confirmed that the broadcast had worked. If Anrakir was here, then Trazyn certainly knew. And if Anrakir carried a star god fragment, Axis had a chance to take it. Alarms wailed across Axis's flagship as the sensors lit up. Multiple hyperspace ingress signatures. Energy signature confirmed. Space Necron fleet, massive scale. Lead flagship identified as Eternal Wanderer. It's Anrakir the Traveler, the sensor officer reported, voice tight with apprehension. Through the viewport, the void was torn by eerie green lights. Wave after wave of strange angular Necron vessels, their hulls like sarcophagi and obsidian spires, stepped out of the warp. At their center floated the pyramid-shaped Eternal Wanderer, a grim star of death radiating cold menace. As expected, he's arrived. Not the collector we'd hoped for, Axis said from the front of the bridge, arms folded. Still, good chance to stretch my legs. Sanguinius, I've got this. Kasha, run the command and keep an eye on things. Sanguinius folded his massive wings and inclined his head. Have fun, I'll cover you. Axis needed no more prompting. Power flared around him like a burning sun. Golden chi burst outward, igniting the bridge in blinding brilliance. He surged into the void in a streak of molten gold. He had entered Super Saiyan mode and slammed straight into the densest cluster of Necron ships. He moved so fast the fleet's auto-targeting could not track him. Gauss flare beams lanced through space, designed to vaporize targets outright, but they struck the luminous mantle of energy around Axis and melted off like snow on hot iron. Destroy it! Anarkir's voice echoed through the Necron comms. A colossal destroyer charged a green lance that could punch through asteroids, pinning Axis in its sights. Axis spread his fingers and thrust his palm forward. A vast golden wave of force, a qigong blast thicker than his own body, rocketed out and slammed into the destroyer's beam. The beam didn't hold. The golden wave cleaved through it as if it were butter, then slammed straight into the destroyer. Necron alloy, renowned for its durability, failed under the onslaught. The destroyer's prow vanished in a roiling instant. The energy core detonated, and the giant ship became a brief blazing green fireball, scattering shards of metal across the void. Axis didn't pause. He darted through the formation like a grim reaper. Each punch sent slicing blast winds that shredded smaller scythe ships. Each kick sent shockwaves that bypassed shields and tore hulls to scrap. Where he passed, there were only sudden silence and showers of twisted metal. Anrakir watched as his fleet was dismantled. The green glow in his eye sockets flickered with a new gravity and a hard, determined edge. He had misjudged this human. This was something else entirely. It was time to bring out his trump cards. Activate the cage of Star Prison. Release the shadow of gluttony, he ordered coldly. At the base of the pyramid flagship, a vast metal cage yawed open. From it poured a shadow of living night, an amorphous mass of energy that writhed and changed, at one moment a churning nebula, at another a hungry maw. At its core, something like a dim heart pulsed, as if it could swallow light and heat itself. A star god fragment, harnessed and weaponized. Axis had faced star god fragments before and knew their nature. He threw himself at the shadow with a thunderous punch. Space itself seemed to recoil. Golden force met void thing in a collision that sent spherical shockwaves tearing through the battlefield, instantly disintegrating unlucky nearby ships down to their atomic components. The fragment screamed, an agony felt on the mental plane, and part of the shadow fractured, becoming unstable and sputtering. Axis intentionally held back a fraction, shaping the exchange so it looked like the fragment, and he were deadlocked. He'd bought time for the real trap to close. Hidden in the void, a second attacker moved. Almost imperceptible, a phase energy beam cut through the space around Axis, shimmering as it passed. It was a binding beam, no ordinary weapon, but a time stasis field. The clone Trazyn had sent activated a temporal device designed to slow Axis's subjective time. Even for a fraction of a second, that sliver of slowed time would be enough for the phase beam to lock and capture him. A smile touched Axis's lips. The fish had taken the bait. Just as the temporal field was about to take effect and the phase beam readied to strike Axis's back, something snapped across the corner of his mouth. A cold, mocking smile. "I've been waiting for you, Collector. Or should I call you Trazyn?" The faint golden aura around Axis suddenly surged into an even fiercer green, brighter than when he'd faced the star god fragment. He ballooned to 3.5 meters tall. His hair flared a wild green. His eyes went milk white, pupils gone, and an utterly feral power radiated from him. Axis had activated Legendary Super Saiyan. For him, Ordinary Super Saiyan, Legendary Super Saiyan, and Super Saiyan 4 were the most energy-efficient battle forms. Super Saiyan God could be maintained indefinitely, but in combat he preferred the raw, overflowing force of the legendary state. Ki poured out of him without end. A short, terrifying roar burst from his chest, solidified golden sound waves and violent ki like a supernova shockwave. It slammed into the fragile time stasis field and shattered it like glass. The phase teleport beam dispersed and died under that torrent of life energy and destructive will. Temporal technology might ensnare a great demon or a gene seed Primarch, but it had no hold over Axis. The power of a god exceeded mortal engineering. Space Necrons had met gods born from the physical universe, but Axis was something different, divine in body, mind, and soul at once. In a flash of exploding gold, Axis vanished. His speed was blistering. The next moment he was above the Necron submersible hidden among wreckage. Trazyn the Infinite stared in disbelief. He had never imagined his opponent could escape his time-space restraint. Arakiel, watching from inside his own ship, narrowed his eyes and began to withdraw his Star God fragment weapon. "Found you." Axis's voice was a sentence of doom. His right foot, veined with golden aura, slammed down with star-shattering force. The Necron craft twisted, ruptured, and blew apart as if hit by a meteor. The precise instruments and Trazyn's clone shell were torn open to the vacuum. The ghostly light in the clone's eyes flickered in panic. It began a self-destruct and frantically tried to upload core data, back to Trajan's tomb world. Axis was not about to let it go. He spread the 5 fingers of his left hand and pointed. A swirling vortex, an evil containment wave formed, sucking with terrible force. It was not an attack, but a seal. The escaping data stream, the fledgling detonation, were dragged and compressed into a specially prepared sealing fall in Axis's palm, as if an invisible giant had scooped them up. This was a technique Axis had developed after mastering godlike power. He perceived ki and pure energy and bound them with sealing spells. Necrons were said to have no souls, but Axis suspected otherwise. Their souls had been largely devoured by a cosmic star god, leaving only faint remnants. Otherwise, Trajan's many clones would all be originals. The bottle shuddered, a ghostly green light writhed inside, but the golden runes on the phial held firm. Axis weighed the bottle, watching fragments of Trajan's consciousness thrash like a caged beast, and smiled. "Now take me to your vault, Infinite One. There's something among your collections I want." "How is this possible? What kind of technology is this? Who are you? You can't." Trajan's voice rattled from within the phial, panic and indignation spilling out. "I'm a data construct. I can return at any time. This has no effect on my true body." "You don't know a lot of things, Collector," Axis replied, shaking the bottle. "Will you take me as a guest to your museum, or will I take you by force?" On the flagship Eternal Wanderer, Erekiel watched the scene with mounting cold logic. He had seen Axis's power, the destruction of the Star God fragment, the sneak attack and capture of Trajan. A single instruction rose in his core: retreat. This being was a calamity far worse than any Star God fragment. Without hesitation, he initiated an emergency hyperspace jump. The massive Necron fleet tore through space, fleeing the sector that had become a purgatory. Axis floated amid the wreckage, the sealed bottle glowing faintly in his hand. He watched the fleet streak away, then laughed and formed a gargantuan green energy sphere in his palm. He hurled it. As the Necron ships reached escape, they destabilized their drives and then expanded, swallowing everything. In Erekiel's unbelieving eyes, his proud fleet, the army he'd spent decades building, was annihilated by a single casual strike. There was no mercy before a legendary Super Saiyan. There was only annihilation. After dealing with the remnants, Axis returned to his ship. "You haven't lost any power," Sanguinius said as he approached. "How will you find where the Necrons keep their lair?" Axis placed the sealing phial on the deck. Trajan's voice from within tried flattery and bargaining. "Release me, and maybe I'll trade you a bit of the energy I absorbed. I'm not a thief. Most of my pieces were acquired by exchange." Axis smiled coldly. He had heard every line from Trajan before. As a veteran of many universes, he knew the Collector's nature, the most consummate robber and appraiser in the galaxy. He would take and take again whenever the chance presented itself. "I'm not here to bargain." Axis dropped out of legendary Super Saiyan and let his body blaze with pink light, Super Saiyan God. In that form, his perception was terrifyingly acute. Even the Dark King hiding in the void, or an Eldar death god yet to be born, could not hide from him. Finding a being tucked away in a pocket universe was trivial. Following the trace of Trajan's aura, Axis instantly teleported his ship across light years. He tore open a rift with his divine power and stepped into the pocket universe. Pocket universes were fragmentary new realities, ripped from the main universe at its birth. They could be as small as a city or as large as a star system, but they were unstable, prone to collapse into something worse. Here, the pocket universe held a massive tomb world, a green, metallic planet that was Trajan, the Infinite's lair. Axis struck the main control chamber with a violent demonic wind wave and sealed the Necron overlord's true body. He then took time to eliminate the meager guard force. Trajan had been confident. His museum kept no strict garrison. The tomb world was filled with exhibits instead of soldiers. Rumor had it that during the Cadia War, the Collector had released all manner of low-grade pieces: custodians, squads of ultramarines from the Great Crusade era, Inquisitor Greyfax, even detachments facing Abaddon, to tidy the collection. Those were trinkets for him. Trajan finally understood he had offended someone he could not afford to anger. "All right," Axis said with a crooked grin. "Everything in your collection is mine now." Trajan wailed from the phial. "Take what you want. Just don't touch my collections. They're priceless." Axis laughed. "No, everything here is mine. What's yours is mine. What's mine stays mine. He began to catalog as he went. You collected gene seed Primarchs, genuine ones and clones, ancient orcs from the War in Heaven, chaos artifacts, members of almost every Space Marine Legion, whole regiments of the Astra Militarum, ancient dreadnoughts, starships, some from the Golden Age, the Dark Age of technology, a Krog ancient orc as powerful as a gene seed Primarch, the moment of Vandir's beheading, Sebastian Thor's skull, a Star God fragment? Sanguinius and the two Kashas accompanied him through the vaulted halls. The sights were staggering, glittering displays, artifacts from countless historical cataclysms across the galaxy, living specimens held in stasis, orcs, humans, Tyranids, unknown Xenos, even Eldar and demons. There were cloned gene seed Primarchs, Fulgrim still loyal to the Imperium, Lorgar, Vulcan, sold by some old Chinese doctor. Ancient legions from the Horus Heresy, the Lost Tanith Regiment, Vostroyan Firstborn units, a damaged but functioning webway portal, an Eldar clown troop, a clone of Phoenix Lord Arcanon, combat repair units, and Adepta Sororitas from the Age of Apostasy who called themselves Imperial Brides. Axis didn't pretend to be polite. He began packing the best pieces, but not for his ship. He opened a spatial rift to another universe, the Holy Terra of another world, and sent everything there. This world, Axis judged, was too tragic to keep these things, better for living beings and relics to be relocated. Magnus the Primarch and Regent Guilliman, stationed on that Holy Terra, received Axis's notification. They immediately mustered custodians and gene seed kin to help. Axis, you outdid yourself. We were still looking for this collector, Magnus said when he appeared. Trazen is clever, but not clever enough. Help move things. There's too much to list. We'll catalog later, Axis said. He had seen entire Iron Men legions and models of dreadnoughts, and many artifacts he didn't recognize at all. Guilliman nodded to Sanguinius and the two Kashas. The custodians, ultramarines, and members of the Thousand Sons Legion streamed into the tomb world, hauling prize after prize through the portal. Trazen watched his hoard being stripped away and cried out, trapped and impotent in the file. "Kill me! Kill me!" he begged. "No, don't take that! Oh my God, it's priceless!" Axis's smile grew cruel. "Don't worry, I won't leave you anything. Long pain is worse than short pain. I'll make you feel the ultimate pain." Trazen spat curses from the bottle, but Axis only taunted back. "Thank you for the compliment, but compared to you, ancestor of thieves, I still have things to learn." In one day, only 1/10 of the items were transported. Axis paused for 2 days, then reopened the portal and continued the purge. The relocation took a full year. Every so often, Axis had to open a portal, which drained almost all of his divine power. Then he would retreat and recover. He soon discovered that, for Scions, the process itself was a form of training. Even after ascending to godhood, Axis rarely used the bulk of his divine reservoir. He'd never spent more than half of it before. But maintaining a portal for a full 24 hours emptied every last drop. And Scions, when pushed to utter exhaustion and then allowed to recover, typically came back stronger. So what began as labor became deliberate cultivation. At first, Axis could only hold a portal for a day. After more than 10 repetitions, he pushed past that limit, and by the end of the year, could maintain a portal for over 30 hours. The progress was enormous, a new method of getting stronger. Saiyans were a bug-like species in that regard. Only constant pressure, repeated extremes, forced evolution of the bloodline. Ease meant stagnation. The Empire's people could only laugh and shake their heads at his methods. "Axis, how strong do you need to be before you're satisfied? You actually train like this?" Sanguinius asked after one particularly brutal day of relocation, half amused and half exasperated. He had watched Axis's growth himself, and never imagined that maintaining a massive interuniversal gate could serve as a path to power. "Becoming stronger is as natural to a Saiyan as eating and enjoying himself," Axis replied as he rose, steadying himself. "As long as I live, I'll pursue strength. If nothing unexpected happens, I'll keep cultivating until I can't improve anymore, until I reach the extreme, the limit." Originally, Axis had thought the transfer would be done in 3 or 4 months. Once he realized what maintaining these portals did for his power, he delayed finishing on purpose. A good cultivation method had to be used as much as possible. He also discovered something else. Trazen was not honest about his holdings. The Space Necron collector had many caches. This bottle had been only one of dozens. The proverb about a clever rabbit having 3 holes applied to the universe's most obsessive thief. Trazyn had multiple layers full of rarities. Among those rarities were artifacts from the war in heaven. One item left Axis speechless, an original golden throne. The throne was the prototype version, crafted by the Old Ones to carve the webway and control it. The Imperial Golden Throne was a much altered descendant. Human and Dark Eldar modifications had turned parts of it into instruments of torture. This original, however, had only 2 fundamental functions: massively amplify a user's psychic power and use that amplified psyche to carve a stable passage through the rift between the warp and reality, then link it to another pre-existing passage. Axis, what are you going to do with the Golden Throne we found? Sanguinius asked, helping him sit and study the device. Finding the throne added a new dimension to their understanding of Trazyn. He had collected astonishing things, and some of them predated the Necron's own mastery. Axis had just pushed his limit again, 31 hours this time, and his exhaustion was profound. He needed 5 or 6 days to fully recover, with spirit tree fruit to speed it along. "We take it home," he said. "If this Trazyn had one here, the one of our universe probably does too. The throne is invaluable. It can amplify a psyker to carve out webway passages. In the Empire, Sanguinius could use it, but Magnus would be ideal. He can carve out entire webway realms. If we can study this prototype, understand its Old One's technology, humanity could make its own webway tools." Trazyn, bottled and begrudging, scoffed at the idea, but could not deny the treasure's worth. The Necrons might have been supreme in the physical domain, but they had never mastered interdimensional architecture the Old Ones used. "There's a catch," Sanguinius warned. "The Old Ones were beyond anything we can comprehend." Sitting on a golden throne requires tremendous qualification, at least the level of Magnus or Father. The Old Ones themselves carved a webway spanning the galaxy. That's tantamount to creating another dimension. "It's true they were powerful," Trazyn agreed icily from inside his containment, "but we, the Necrons, were ultimately victorious in the war in heaven. Even the cosmic star gods who allied with the Old Ones were shattered and imprisoned." Axis frowned. "You claim victory, but I still have doubts. In the legends, the Old Ones were suppressed by you. Then the cosmic star gods joined, and you turned the tide and won. That always felt odd to me." He laid out what bothered him. The Old Ones had technology and influence that reached beyond the galaxy. The Necrons were initially confined. Human Dark Age tech had once been not far behind the Necrons. The cosmic star gods' fragments, what Axis had fought, were weaker than a Super Saiyan, and their true forms, though cosmic in nature, wouldn't match Super Saiyan 2 or 3. It made no sense that the combined force of the Necrons and these entities would so thoroughly exterminate the Old Ones. "What if you weren't the true victors?" Axis proposed. "What if the Old Ones went into hiding? Or what if someone else intervened? The war in heaven may have been huge, but it wasn't universe-shattering. It happened in our galaxy. It didn't wipe out everything. Neighboring galaxies remained untouched. If you claim your celestial Ori can detonate every star, it sounds impressive, but everyone with basic astronomical knowledge knows detonation of a single star isn't the same as remaking a cosmos." The conversation drifted to a broader unease Axis had felt since arriving in this setting: technological stagnation. The universe here seemed like an experiment. Civilizations rose to paradigmatic peaks: Old Ones, Necrons, Eldar, humanity, then declined into half-dead relics. The Necrons' tech was no more advanced now than 60 million years ago. The same stagnation afflicted human and Eldar cultures. Axis found it unnatural. "You sound like you're reading conspiracy tomes," Trazyn said, amused but wary. "What race would orchestrate all this? Even the Chaos Gods would be pawns." Axis tilted his head. "Think about it. In the earliest times, the warp was different, purer, filled with positive energy. There were no warp gods at first. The Old Ones seemed to guide younger races towards certain discoveries. The cosmic star gods, according to older settings, were discovered by the Necrons and given bodies of living metal. What if the Old Ones created or shaped the warp, even the Chaos Gods, as tools or life forms? What if some intelligence designed the galaxy to rise and then be reined in?" His hypothesis stunned both Sanguinius and the contained Trazyn. Sanguinius wanted to refute it out of instinct, but could not shake the feeling of strangeness that Axis described. Trazyn's ocular implants flashed as he ran through data and counter-arguments. "You have no hard evidence," Trazyn finally said. "No, it's a hypothesis," Axis conceded. "But look at what happened to the Tau and the Raiden. The Tau went from Stone Age to a rapid spacefaring ascent in a few thousand years during the Great Crusade. The Raiden were progressing fast before we exterminated them. If allowed to continue, either could have reached a dark age of technology level. Yet these races stall or collapse through sudden cataclysms, internal rebellions, external wars. It seems too convenient. Peaks followed by engineered declines." He paused, then gave the final piece of his uneasy pattern. "And the Tyranids? They prove my point. Who in this universe is best at creating bizarre, warmongering life? The Tyranids mirror the orcs in function. Ravenous expansionist, a stimulus for constant warfare. I suspect they weren't a natural occurrence. They might have been introduced, sent to consume and provoke, to keep the galaxy in flames." The bottle hummed. Sanguinius' expression darkened. The idea that the galaxy might be a controlled laboratory, its species, rises and collapses manipulated by some hidden hand, hung in the air like the aftertaste of too strong wine. 384. The Emperor's verification. The time of the birth of the evil god. Axis's words hit the room like a sledgehammer. What he proposed sounded plausible. Tyranids and orcs shared far too many similarities. Both seemed born for war. Orcs were pure warriors. Tyranids, however, were more efficient. Their existence seemed aimed at stripping planets of organic matter, devouring everything in their path. "Axis, if what you say is true, then the Tyranids might indeed be engineered," Sanguinius said. "But how do you explain that wherever the Tyranids go, they leave nothing behind? They utterly devastate a planet's ecosystem. If they were an experimental species intended to keep waging war across the galaxy, wouldn't total devastation be counterproductive? Destroying life would be enough. You haven't looked closely enough into Tyranid reports, or you haven't read the Mechanicus intelligence carefully," Axis replied with a smile. Official data before the crossing did show worlds that passed through by Tyranid fleets became barren, but not completely irrecoverable. The topsoil had been stripped, but recovery was possible. Belisarius Cawl had studied planets the Tyranids had visited and found that by reintroducing organic matter to the soil, these worlds could be revitalized. He even recommended to Primarch Guilliman that humanity devote resources to rehabilitating some of those worlds. The plan was approved. Such planets could be restored with enough intervention. The old ones, if anyone, would be far more adept at that work than humans. "Axis, I must admit your imagination is rich, but it makes sense. It's a very plausible theory," Trazyn the Infinite said. "Of course," Axis said. "Think practically. If the Tyranids needed massive amounts of biomass, would the most efficient strategy be to utterly strip a planet as they pass through it? That's not logical." He paused. "If you want biomass sustainably, farming is the obvious solution. Cultivate organisms on a world that can then continuously produce biomass, potentially for billions of years. Sending fleets to eat every world they encounter is wasteful. It would be far more efficient to settle and cultivate." It was a simple truth. Tyranids wanted biomass. If they needed only energy, stars would be the better target. A planet cannot outproduce a star in raw energy. Humanity moved to agriculture and animal husbandry because it was more efficient than foraging. Tyranid behavior, relentless, consumptive raids, didn't fit the pattern of a top-tier cosmic predator that understood long-term efficiency. "Humans have only ever speculated about the Tyranids," Axis continued. "We assume they want biomass, but what if they want war? In several decisive battles, Tyranid fleets bypassed life-bearing worlds and struck straight at human forces. Logically, devouring those planets to bolster their numbers would have been the most effective tactic, yet they didn't. That suggests their purpose isn't simple. Orcs are a chaotic horde because each orc has an independent mind and even spawned their own gods," Axis said. "But Tyranids are different. They're biological weapons. Individual creatures, even the Norn queens that direct hive fleets, display limited intellect and no true self-awareness. From an evolutionary perspective, this species could not have naturally evolved. They had to be artificially created. They're a far more efficient instrument of war than orcs. This is terrifying, Axis, Sanguinius said, his face draining of color. The Primarch had never felt such fear. An invisible hand seemed to be steering everything. One anomaly can be coincidence, Axis said. Two can be explained. But dozens, hundreds of anomalies, when taken together, even the most outlandish explanation becomes the only one that fits. He gave a dry smile. By my reckoning, there's a 99% chance I'm right. The old ones never vanished. This has all been their experiment. They modified countless species and civilizations and indirectly created many of the forces we now contend with. Trazyn nodded. He'd long suspected similar things. Axis's conclusions, no matter how distasteful, given how Axis had plundered his collections, were disturbingly persuasive. Good, Axis said. There are still some sharp minds among us. Axis, we should discuss this with my father-in-law, and with all the Primarchs, Sanguinius said. Axis smiled and released Trazyn. The three of them prepared. After 7 days' rest, when Axis had fully recovered his strength, he reopened the cross-universe passage and traveled to Holy Terra of another world to stand before the Emperor on the Golden Throne. He had two objectives, to report his findings and to hand over the second Golden Throne. Sanguinius's return was met with warmth by his brothers. Magnus led them before the Golden Throne. Axis presented the second device and explained its origin, an Old One machine used to create and stabilize the webway. This is valuable, the Emperor said. Magnus, you will be its custodian. Use it to establish more webways for humanity. I will, my lord, Magnus said. I will use this device to benefit all mankind. Axis, hand Rogaldorn of the other world over to that world's Emperor. Then finish your mission and return here quickly, the Emperor instructed. The longer you remain in their universe, the easier it is for them to discover you. They lacked the resources to intervene fully in the other universe yet. Axis's work there would have to wait until he was strong enough to confront the Dark King and their forces. For now, they had to stabilize their own universe and use Axis's intelligence. They had already gathered everything they could on the Necron overlord Trazyn of that world, and were preparing a surprise operation to recover Rogaldorn. I understand, father-in-law, Axis said, but I must bring back the life goddess first. Besides returning the Golden Throne, I have something else very important to share. Oh, what have you discovered? Is it about the Dark King? The Emperor asked. Not directly. I've formed a bold hypothesis. Axis explained his reasoning. The strange patterns throughout the galaxy, signs of artificial design in the universe itself, the arc of civilizations rising to a peak and then declining, the abrupt appearance of Tyranids, all pointed to the universe as an experimental ground. The prime candidate responsible, he argued, were the Old Ones. The Emperor fell silent, his face grave. Axis was not the first to suspect such things. Long ago, when humanity had been at its height, the Emperor had encountered similar hints. Every time he probed deeper, some invisible force seemed to block him. Axis's analysis made the Emperor almost certain that such an intelligence existed. If the Chaos Gods, Tyranids, and the rest were all part of some engineered system, the implications were terrifying. I need to speak with Khorne, Axis said. Khorne and I have known each other a long time. My daemon sense tells me Khorne is a complete life form with true will. I want to ask him when he first achieved self-awareness. I advise against it, the Emperor warned. If the 4 Chaos Gods are creations of the Old Ones, they will be monitored. It's possible the Dark King is a program aimed at you, disrupted by your intervention. If you question Khorne, you might get answers, but you will also expose yourself. Axis only laughed, coldly. Emperor, you overthink. It's not a risk of exposure. I have already been exposed. They've been watching me for a long time. At that moment, it was clear they had been overheard. The voices in the warp were listening. The Emperor trailed off. Axis, don't be so certain. Maybe it's just imagination. This is a wild claim, Magnus said, shocked. I can't say what their ultimate purpose is, Axis replied, but I can say with certainty that the Chaos Gods will give me an answer. Without hesitation, he slipped into the webway. Through that connection in the warp, Axis linked to the brass throne. A voice answered. My ally Axis, do you require something of me? Khorne asked. Khorne, Axis said. I have a very important question. Please answer me. Ask, Khorne said. When did you become self-aware? Axis asked. You ask me that? Khorne replied. We Chaos Gods exist across timelines, present, past, future. I truly achieved self-awareness 60 million years ago, after the war in heaven ended. That slaughter forged me. I was the first of the Chaos Gods to awaken. I see, Axis said. Then I have an extremely disturbing conjecture. Are you interested in hearing it? Oh, is that so? What new discoveries can you tell me? Khorne asked immediately, intrigued. As the supreme deity of the warp, he knew almost everything in that realm, and yet he knew nothing about Axis, an entity from another universe. Axis represented something new, something that might let Khorne reach farther, become stronger. First, steel yourself, Axis replied. I have to step into your domain to reach its warp. No problem. Come, Khorne said, and with the raw force of a Chaos God, he rent a path through the webway straight to the brass throne. Axis shifted into Super Saiyan God form, red godly chi flaring around him, and stepped into the warp. After a short passage, he arrived at the brass throne, a blood-red realm. The crimson aura about him stood out against the endless sea of souls. Technically, the warp was a mental plane, but physical things could manifest there, because beings from the material universe could enter it. The warp made interstellar travel possible for many civilizations. Without it, those races might have been trapped on their homeworlds until they unlocked faster-than-light travel or lived eons to cross the void. Axis had been here many times since ascending to godhood. The place felt faintly similar to his own world's geography, yet alien at the same time. You've changed, Axis, Khorne said. You're stronger than before. How long has it been since we last met? You've improved again. You surprise me. Unlike mortals, Chaos Gods did not reliably grow continuously, simply by existing. Their strength increased only with the passions and acts that fed them, and time in the warp had no straightforward effect. Khorne had lived for what should have been unfathomable spans, and yet he could not claim that mere age had made him inevitable. He was cautious. Here's the situation, Axis said. I have a strong suspicion, and after talking with the Emperor, I'm even more convinced. I came because of what I learned about your origins. Now I can almost prove my theory. Axis laid out his conjectures and the evidence. The blood-red world trembled in silence. The brass throne shuddered beneath Khorne. The great daemon upon it felt a tangle of emotions. Impossible, Axis. You must be wrong, Khorne snapped. We cannot have been created by the old ones. Maybe your earlier idea had merit, that someone staged an experiment outside the galaxy, but the notion that we were made by them is absurd. We are ancient. The warp is vast. We are not toys. Axis let him have his anger. Are you really that sure? How old is your universe? How many billions of years have you existed? Your playground, the four of you, is just one galaxy. Compared to the whole cosmos, your domain is no more than a grain of sand. Imagine ants sealed in a glass tank. Their scientists deduce the chandelier above is a sun, the glass walls are the world, the cover the sky. They invent a cosmology from what they can see. Maybe that's us. The warp is vast, Khorne bellowed. This sea of souls has existed since before time. Then why are you so angry at me? Axis returned coldly. You already have an answer inside you. You just refuse to accept it. If the old ones did this, why? For amusement? As pets? Khorne asked, trying to push the idea away. If parallel universes exist, surely the old ones explored them. How could they not? Aren't you saying all the information you know might be what someone wants you to believe? Even your memories could be false. Everything about me isn't fake, Axis said. He reached into his spatial stores and produced the summoning artifact that could call the god of destruction from his home universe, the Dragon Ball universe, and let its purple destructive energy wash over the brass throne. The power was alien, monstrous, and Khorne felt it like a blade at his throat. The force could annihilate him outright. It should not have been possible inside the warp. Khorne recoiled. As a chaos god, he had been anchored to the warp. As long as the warp stood, he believed himself immortal. That this foreign energy could threaten him unsettled him more than any argument. If what you suspect is true, why haven't the old ones acted against you? Khorne demanded. Because they want something from me, Axis said. They want a way to transcend this universe. Why would a species that has perfected a universe be content to stay inside it? Just as humans, once they explored beyond Earth, wanted to leave their planet. The old ones seek to leave this cosmos too. Even so, what's the benefit of your theory? Khorne asked. If they can grant you power, why hinder you? Why not help you reach the level where you could eat the fruit of God? Tell me something, Axis said. If I open a portal to another universe and keep it stable for, say, 30 hours, could you pass through, leave your warp and enter another universe? Could you meet another version of yourself? I cannot leave the warp, Khorne replied. I've always known that. We may project avatars into real space, but we are bound to this plane. We cannot go to the material universe, let alone another one. I'm not talking about their physical space, Axis said. I'm talking about their warp. Have you ever tried to enter the warp of another universe? I haven't. I don't know if it's possible, but in theory, then let's try. Axis tore a rift through the barriers between realities with a sweep of his godly key. The portal did not lead to empty space, but to another sea of souls, the warp of another universe, a separate timeline inside the larger multiverse. Khorne sensed an alien aura on the far side and rose, eager to cross. But an invisible force held him back. No, Khorne said. I can survive there, I think, but something restrains me. It's like a rule that binds me to this warp. You're not strong enough, Axis said. He stepped closer, and the blood-red chi around him deepened to an even more vibrant blue. Rules exist to be broken. Destiny exists to be surpassed. Axis pressed his will forward, using his godly chi to sever, if only temporarily, Khorne's tether to this universe. He shoved Khorne through the portal and slammed it closed. In an instant, Khorne's presence in this warp vanished. Across the warp, the Emperor on the Golden Throne and the other Chaos Gods felt the change. One of the four, Khorne, had simply gone. The Emperor's senses flared. He knew Axis had done something enormous. 386. Create a real body for Khorne and get a sun axis carried Khorne into another universe, into the warp of that alternate world. This is incredible, Axis. You actually brought me to another world, Khorne said, giddy. The warp felt familiar, and yet it was utterly foreign. This was not his domain, and here there was already another version of him. He could sense his counterpart seated on the brass throne. The other four Chaos Gods likewise felt an intruder in the warp, an existence identical to the one on the throne. Khorne's triumph was cut short. Suddenly he felt his power draining, his form began to dissipate. It was as if the rules of this universe would not allow a duplicate of him to persist. By forcing his way in, he was being erased, used to fill the place of the other Khorne. Axis, I feel a force trying to wipe me out. This warp can't hold me. There's already one of me here. Do something, or send me back, Khorne said, his face paling. Don't worry. I foresaw this, Axis replied. Don't panic. This time I'll break the rules properly. Axis stepped forward and wrapped Khorne's immense form in his god of chi, stabilizing him long enough to extract him into the webway. He had not been idle these past years. To test his plan, he had prepared a special world inside the webway of this universe, and had buried soil he'd brought from the life planet Aisha's territory in his own world. What are you going to do? Khorne asked. I'm going to give you a body, Axis said. You're fundamentally a warp being. Now that I've pulled you out of that universe's space, all you need is a physical shell you can inhabit. Become a life form with a real body, and you can exist anywhere. Axis produced a first-generation cultivator seed and planted it. He fed it a large amount of mental tree fruit juice for nutrition, then guided its development with his god of chi. The seed catalyzed and began to hatch. Following Axis's instructions, Khorne poured his soul into the emerging body, becoming the master of the newborn form. Throughout the process, Axis kept reinforcing the body with chi. To fuse soul and flesh perfectly, Axis used his god of chi to toughen the shell, while Khorne poured in an endless stream of chaos divine power. Because the body would need to bear the nature of a chaos god, both Axis's chi and Khorne's chaos power hammered and shaped it. The cultivator's body grew rapidly. Its height climbed from the original 2 meters to 3, 4, 5, then 10, eventually peaking at about 17 meters. The form was demonic, 3 horns on its head like a crown burning with inner fire, and a pair of broad, membranous wings that, when unfurled, stretched 25 meters across. Axis kept supplying growth nutrients from the second-generation mental tree fruit until the body reached its limit. This body is powerful, unprecedented, Khorne rumbled. but it still can't contain all my power. Axis smiled faintly. That's why I prepared a sealing technique. I can lock away 90% of your soul and energies, keep 10% active to control the body. Later, when the fruit of God matures, you eat it. It will strengthen body and soul until you truly merge with the shell. He had once developed the skill Magic Windwave to seal the Necrons of space. By tweaking it, he could compress and cage a Chaos God's power. The seal was unstable. Khorne could, if he wished, break it by force, but it would be enough to prevent his power from bleeding into and corrupting the universe if he didn't deliberately shatter it. Fine, Khorne said. He climbed into the shell without hesitation and began to merge with the demon form Axis had made. Axis gathered his god of Chi and activated the seal. The god of Chi squeezed and compressed Khorne's chaos divine power into a core, leaving roughly 10% accessible to the host body, while more than 90% was held within by the seal. At last, Khorne had a physical shell that could walk the real universe. "Ha-ha, thank you, Axis. This is what I've always wanted. Even with 10%, in the material realm, I am invincible." Khorne laughed, relishing the raw force humming inside him. "You're welcome. Test it. Now you should be able to use the Chi energy as well," Axis said. The body Axis had made was a first-generation cultivator. He had not chosen a second-generation one because such bodies couldn't withstand a Chaos God's influence, and Axis had plans that required Khorne's power. Khorne's massive head swiveled. He spread his hands and drew up a blood-red energy into his palms. It wasn't warp power, but a kind of Chi, savage, destructive, chaotic. "As I thought, your Chi is an evil thing like your true nature," Axis observed. "You're right. Father?" Khorne froze, startled by the word escaping him. He glanced at Axis in confusion. Axis chuckled. "Using a cultivator's body comes with a small cost. Because my Chi gave you life and the right to use this shell, you form a bond with me. You'll instinctively regard me as a father." "So that's it," Khorne muttered. He hated the idea of an inexplicable father, but the connection was undeniable, stronger than even his tether to the warp. He could feel Axis's presence inside him, closer than any other tie. Axis's tone turned frank. "There's a reason. First, I need to improve. I need a rival who can match me. In this universe, there is no longer anyone who can satisfy me, but you can." "No problem," Khorne said simply. Fighting was his pleasure. The body had great developmental potential, and Chi energy could further strengthen it. He liked Axis's temper. Both of them loved conflict. Father and son, if that had to be the arrangement, would at least make for good sparring partners. In fact, he would rather be the father, but that was a conversation for another time. "There's a second reason," Axis continued. "I'm tired of childish games here. I intend to take the life goddess of this universe, and I want to retrieve what matters to me. You will help me." Khorne's grin widened. With Axis's guidance and his own power sealed in the new shell, the tasks ahead would become far easier. "Using your Chaos God's power, you should be able to take on a human form." "Change back now," Axis said. Khorne nodded, stretched, and a red light flared from him. In an instant, he took shape as a bald man over 2 meters tall. "This is my first time having a body in the real universe. I still feel a little unaccustomed. But this body gives a different feeling," he added after a moment. "Now I finally feel like a complete being, not just a chaos god born in the warp." Until now, Khorne had been at most an aggregation of war, bloodlust, rage, and riot. Raw, negative concepts given shape in the Imperium. Now he felt flesh, a soul. It was an oddity that the space demons the 4 chaos entities created could manifest in the real universe, while the gods themselves usually could not. The material cosmos should be large enough to hold them, yet they were constrained. Axis had a plan to use that fact. Axis explained the plan to Khorne. "First, I'll take you into the primary space of this world. The Chaos 4 and the Emperor will have sensed your presence and will try to track it down. You will be the bait, attract the Chaos God's attention. I'll go into Nurgle's garden to rescue the life goddess. If you can buy me a little time, I can get her and then take her back to my universe. From there, I can instant transmit to my son and we can retreat." Khorne listened. "Your plan is sound, but one problem. I can only exert about 1/10 of my power in this body. If I push harder, it might not survive. The body could explode. I don't want the physical form I've struggled to obtain destroyed like that." If the body were destroyed, his soul would be exposed to the warp. Two Khornes cannot coexist. His essence would either merge with the Khorne of this universe or be devoured by it, ceasing to exist as an individual. I anticipated that, Axis said. That's why I made a body that can function in the real universe. You only need to make trouble in physical space, or in the Eye of Terror, enough to draw attention. I also have an arrangement with the Dark King of this world. He'll help stall things. The Dark King of this universe, the man on the golden throne, the Corpse Emperor, had not yet fully turned on Axis, so the plan could still proceed. If Axis could slip into Nurgle's garden, the Corpse Emperor, who was in thrall to the Dark King, would have to act. The Emperor would be forced to detain one god. The Eldar death god, to whom Axis had also granted a physical body, would move against Slaanesh. Guilliman would draw Nurgle's attention, and Axis's bait would pull Tzeentch, essentially holding back all four Chaos deities simultaneously. The Emperor of this universe is effectively controlled by the Dark King. Are you sure he'll cooperate? Are you sure he won't betray you? Khorne asked. Axis had only recently discovered the Corpse Emperor's identity and was uncertain. He will help. Weakening the Chaos Four benefits him as well. There is no direct conflict of interest between us at the moment, so he has no reason to make an enemy of me. The Dark King of this universe had spent 10,000 years growing into what he was now. He was not the same as Axis's Dark King. Axis's own Dark King was irreconcilably opposed to him. But the Dark King here shared enemies with Axis, the Chaos Four. The two sides had been cooperating. Axis had spent the last year ferrying Trazen's collection and cultivating a private relationship with the Emperor, even arranging Rogol Dorn's return to this world. The Indomitus Crusade had already begun, with Axis's son Kratos and Dorn leading. Kratos, a transplant from another universe, had a high rank, but Dorn remained the Emperor's true trusted lieutenant. Above them, the Emperor was no longer the father he once had been. Still, the cooperation held. Very well, let's do it, Khorne said. If anything goes wrong, we both run. I won't risk losing the body I worked so hard for. Bound now by more than circumstances, Khorne and Axis were partners of a new sort. Axis nodded, sent Khorne out to start making trouble, and then drew a deep breath. He folded his mind into space and established contact with the man on the golden throne. Axis, what have you done? I felt the warp tremble. For a moment I sensed two Khornes existing simultaneously. One vanished quickly, but it was dangerous, the Corpse Emperor said. I ran a small experiment, Axis replied. I told you I have a good relationship with my world's Khorne. He crossed over to help me with our plan. The Emperor was astonished. You can be friends with a Chaos God? The Chaos Gods are the universe's most chaotic, most selfish entities. Friendship is not a concept they entertain. Tell me how you befriended a Khorne from another universe. Axis answered plainly. Our temperaments align. Our personalities and tastes are similar, and in some philosophies we agree. The most stable part of our relationship, though, is tied to the fruit of God. Axis had kept the fruit secret from the Corpse Emperor. The Corpse Emperor's soul image on the golden throne nodded, surprised by the revelation that Axis could befriend a Chaos God. Ever since Axis had appeared, his plans had been complicated, though Axis had also brought advantages. Axis's presence suggested knowledge and capability that made the Dark King uneasy. He was an outsider more perfect than the Emperor had imagined, capable of things the Emperor had always sought. The Corpse Emperor's origins were old, a god of the warp, plucked by ancient Terran shamans and sealed into a human body. Once inside that body, his true consciousness slept, but even in slumber, the god steadily altered the mortal vessel toward increasing perfection. The Emperor's body had reached near the limits of what the physical universe could sustain. Any greater density might trigger collapse into a black hole or thermonuclear fusion. Over time, the Dark King's consciousness had been edging upward, eroding the original mortal persona. His protection of humanity was colder and darker than before. His long-term aim was to obtain a body that could simultaneously exist in the real universe and the warp, a vessel to perfectly host his soul. Axis's arrival altered that trajectory. Axis's physical quality, his mastery of chi and bodies, offered the Emperor a new possibility. The other Axis had once used chi to restore the Emperor's damaged shell. The Emperor had even ambushed and devoured another version of himself in a different universe, gaining power and direction. From then on, he had attempted to keep Axis in this universe, to use Axis's techniques to perfect his vessel. The plan had been proceeding until Axis, without warning, brought Khorne across the void and fashioned another suitable divine body. Axis had knowledge the Emperor lacked. "Here's how we'll play it," the Corpse Emperor said. "The Eldar Death God will move against Slaanesh to draw him out. I'll help delay Tzeentch. Guilliman will bait Nurgle. Your diversions will pull all four nearly simultaneously." "Don't worry," Axis said. "Khorne knows how to keep himself safe. Like the Eldar Death God, I gave him a body capable of walking the real universe. The Chaos Gods are warp-insulated. There shouldn't be accidents." "Your method of creating physical bodies is special," the Emperor mused. "Perhaps you could create me a temporary physical avatar as well, so I can act more freely in the real universe." Axis slipped into thought. The Emperor was testing him, trying to see if Axis had learned the Emperor's true nature. Axis would not have helped had he confirmed the Emperor's identity, yet the body the Emperor wanted couldn't fully bear his greater power anyway. It would be more like a clone or avatar, and it would form a connection with the Maker. That link would deliver the Emperor a step closer to Axis. "At most, I can create a body like the Eldar Death Gods," Axis said. "Your full soul is too great for an ordinary shell." "I'm not asking for a vessel to carry my entirety," the Emperor replied. "My main body remains. I will split off a portion of my soul and place it into this body as an avatar. It will be a clone that allows me to act in the real universe." "If it's only a partial avatar, possible," Axis said. "But it will take some time. After we finish this mission, I'll help you create a suitable body. I'll use my chi to nourish it and try to bring it as close as possible to perfection." Axis was inwardly curious. If he made such an avatar, whose nature would it favor? The Emperor's or his own handiwork? For now, he kept the thought to himself. The Emperor considered. "It shouldn't take long, a few days at most. With a competent body, I could do much more." "Good," Axis said, "but I will need a sample of your blood from your original body. I must record your genetic pattern." "Can't gene seed or Primarch blood suffice?" the Emperor asked. "You must send your blood. Otherwise, I cannot register your genetic map," Axis replied. He had never tried to model a cultivator body from Huang Lao Han's genetic map and was wary of improvisation. "I understand," the Corpse Emperor said. "I will extract blood from my main body and send a living saint to deliver it." "Do it quickly. We have little time," Axis warned. The Emperor's reach was vast. He could dispatch a living saint anywhere in the galaxy at a moment's notice. It will take no more than half a day. If he could obtain the clone, the Emperor reasoned, he would have a countermeasure even if Axis discovered the Emperor's identity. With a clone and his main body's might, Axis could not so easily overcome him. Axis, for his part, planned to place a trump card next to the Emperor, an undercover agent of chi-infused loyalty, to see how the Avatar would take shape. They closed the bargain with mutual suspicion. Far away on the Golden Throne, the Corpse Emperor summoned his custodes and ordered blood drawn from his body. The custodes resisted, but completed the task. With a vial sealed, the Emperor summoned one of his living saints, sent her into the warp, and remotely deployed her toward Axis's location to deliver the sample. 388. The Corpse Emperor, the Black Emperor, the new incarnation. Who will have the last laugh? Axis stood on a remote world inside the webway and waited 3 days. During that time, he ate 2 spirit tree fruits and fully restored his power. As a scion, he understood the need to push his body to the absolute limit and then rebuild it again. Each exhaustion and recovery made his god of chi rebound faster and a little stronger. Vegeta had been right in the original story. Saiyan potential is effectively limitless if you are willing to suffer for it. Axis now suspected that with enough cycles, he might not need divine fruit at all. His superior bloodline could carry him past his current ceiling. Exhausted now, he would take half a month to recover naturally. With a spirit tree fruit, it was 3 days. That interval seemed to shorten with training. Perhaps after a dozen repetitions, he would need only a single night's rest to recover fully, and in a decade or two his body would adapt perfectly. A few centuries might even see him break through into an entirely new realm. A rip tore open the warp above the planet, and a warp rift pulsed into being. After 3 days, the living saint of the Corpse Emperor finally arrived in the webway where Axis had been waiting. Such efficiency, Axis thought, looking up. The Dark King's reach must not be underestimated. Over 10,000 light-years from Holy Terra, yet a living saint had been sent in 3 days. The rift did not wail with demonic screams or spit warp storms. It opened in a clean, cold column of golden light carrying an absolute, commanding will. A figure bathed in that light descended, huge golden wings, power armor of condensed warp energy, a face composed and fervent, eyes burning with unquestioning adoration for the Corpse Emperor. It was a living saint formed from the death of a sister of the Adeptus Sororitas, not Celestine himself, but no less devout. In her hands, she cradled an adamantine cylinder covered in sacred runes. Inside, a crimson liquid sloshed, an impossible blend of psychic potency, will, and raw vitality. Axis had spent 10,000 years on the Golden Throne, the living saint intoned. Recently, Axis had restored her body by giving life energy and god of chi. The holy blood of the great god emperor, she proclaimed, and with reverence offered the cylinder to him. By the emperor's oracle, I present this. May your actions purify chaos. Glory to the Golden Throne. May the great god emperor protect you. Axis took the container and felt the immense alien power within. You've done well, he said. The living saint bowed, then the golden light reclaimed her, and she was pulled back through the rift. Her business done, the rift closed as if it had never been. The Corpse Emperor's divine presence, the guise Axis knew as the Dark King, fell upon the place in the same instant. Impatient Dark King, Axis muttered, weighing the adamantine cylinder with a small smile. He moved to the spot where he had tried to cultivate Khorne's body earlier and selected a fresh patch of ground. Axis, what you have prepared is ready. Hurry, act now. I am impatient to have a body that can move in the material universe so I can better protect humanity, defend the Imperium, and resist chaos. The Corpse Emperor's voice echoed in Axis's mind. Axis nodded. You'll have to split a portion of your soul to enter it. Keep that fragment small. Don't let the consciousness overwhelm the body. I understand. The Dark King's tone was smooth. I will split a part of myself and enter as soon as the vessel takes shape. For the Chaos Gods, splitting off a piece of soul and consciousness to form an avatar was no great feat, like crafting a greater demon. The part he would send was tiny and recoverable. Axis knew the Dark King's power was comparable to the Chaos Four, and if he wished he could spawn lesser daemons at will. Now, the Emperor prepared a suitable fragment shaped to the constraints of the forming body. Axis took a seed from his dimensional pocket, different from the first-generation cultivator seed he had used for Khorne. The grain was paler, fit better into the Warhammer cosmology, but its base vitality and plasticity were lower. It could not channel chi energy in the same way. He dug a pit 10 meters deep and buried the seed in soil soaked with life energy from Aisha's territory. Then he poured a large measure of highly concentrated second-generation spirit tree juice over it and carefully dripped a little of the Corpse Emperor's blood into the seed. The crimson fluid seeped into the seed as though it were living. It pulsed, faint gold lines awakening along its surface and beginning to resonate with the genetic blueprint and psychic imprint in the blood. Axis poured his god of chi into the earth, golden power like a tide, and the planet vibrated far beyond the intensity of the earlier experiment with Khorne. A brilliant golden beam shot into the webbed sky and briefly cut through the mist of the webway. The Dark King watched, excited, feeling the seed respond. A colossal cocoon of pure energy formed. Golden runes of the Emperor's blood and Axis's godly sigils flowed across its shell, clashing and recombining as Axis guided the incubation with measured bursts of chi and the spirit tree's energy. Life built itself inside the cocoon. The core will bore the Dark King's cool calculation and thirst for control, but surrounding that was a shell fused from Axis's god of chi and the seed's underlying directives. The embryo's psychic potency was already high. Light converged until the cocoon stabilized into a 5-meter-tall golden egg. The new life conceived from the Emperor's blood possessed an inborn aptitude surpassing even a gene seed Primarch. Now, Axis urged, split the fragment and enter. It has conceived. If he delayed, the seed might grow its own independent soul and become something else, powerful but less useful to the Dark King. The Dark King broke off a fragment of his essence, careful, wily, wrapped in golden divine power so as not to tip Axis off, and slipped into the cocoon. The tiny soul piece was already the stature of a minor warp god. Axis smiled and poured more chi into the incubation. A crack sounded. The shell split and a dark golden armored arm burst through. When the shell tore apart, a figure rose, nearly 5 meters tall, perfectly proportioned, skin of faint metallic bronze with dark gold armored patterns like Custodes plate but biological and seamless, faint streams of golden energy braided through the seams. The armor was not forged. It had been manifested from warp energy guided by Emperor blood and Axis's power. His face was carved resolute, eyes like eagles, but those pupils burned with cold golden fire. Up close, the features were almost the twin of Nyos, Axis's father-in-law, yet an undercurrent of shadow lurked in his gaze. The new being exuded an oppressive presence, Emperor psychic pressure braided with Axis's god of chi. He flexed his new hands and felt raw, unprecedented strength. The body simulated the Emperor's psychic template perfectly, amplified by spirit tree nourishment and Axis's divine infusion. In certain respects, this vessel rivaled or even exceeded the Emperor's original body, and it might grow in ways the Emperor's throne-bound form never could. "This is a perfect vessel," the corpse Emperor murmured through the avatar, voice low and full of awe. He lifted his gaze to Axis, satisfaction flickering beneath careful scrutiny. He had succeeded in taking control, yet he needed more from Axis for now. "Thank you, Axis. You have exceeded my expectations. This form can carry my will and manifest real power in the material universe." "You're welcome," Axis said, smiling faintly. "Only by becoming stronger can you better protect humanity and the Imperium, and keep your end of our bargain." Axis felt the attempted conquest. The Dark King believed he owned the body. But the shell Axis had formed, the seed's programming fused with his god of chi, had woven itself into every cell. Axis was the silent architect. The Emperor's soul was an occupant. The host's foundations belonged to Axis. He suspected that if he grew stronger, he could project his own soul into the vessel and force the original out. The thought made him amused. He stepped forward and casually patted the avatar's shoulder. "How do you feel? How much power can you muster? Any discomfort?" The avatar flexed its neck. "In the material universe, it's far less than my true form in the warp, but enough," it rumbled. "Enough to contend with, perhaps even slay, a complete Citan. And, critically, it frees me from the Golden Throne. I can move freely now. Khorne, the version you brought from another world, will cause chaos. I will go to the designated target to distract Tzeentch. Do not forget your promise. Bring out the life goddess and weaken Nurgle." "Don't worry," Axis replied. "I know Nurgle's garden well. We'll split up. If things go wrong, prioritize survival. This is only the beginning." The avatar studied Axis as if reading his face, then nodded. Golden flames of chi gathered round it. "For the future of humanity," it intoned, then transformed into a streak of golden light that tore through the webway and vanished into the warp toward Tzeentch's crystal labyrinth. Axis watched it go, a playful smile on his lips. "For the future," he murmured, golden light flashing across his eyes. "But whose future remains to be seen?" He turned without hesitation. God of Chi coalesced around him, and space rippled like water. The target, Nurgle's plague garden. Axis activated instant transmission and vanished from the webway. Silence fell again on the remote world. 2 massive incubation pits gaped where the births had been, the scent of chaos and divinity lingering in the air. Across the warp, the 4 chaos gods felt the disturbance. Slaanesh seethed at an Eldar death god's interference. Khorne discovered an alternate version of himself, loose in the material. Tzeentch found the Corpse Emperor's avatar intruding on his domain. And inside Nurgle's garden, Axis had arrived. A thunderous roar shook Nurgle's garden as Axis materialized amid a blaze of golden-green light. The legendary Super Saiyan aura that rolled off him incinerated half a dozen low-level Nurglings and lesser demons on the spot. He planted his feet and shouted, his voice echoing across the sickly green realm. "Nurgle, come out and fight!" Cowardice was not in a Saiyan's nature. Axis had already dared the warp before. When he could only reach Super Saiyan 3, he had stormed it alone, and he had fought his way through to Super Saiyan 4. Now, having grasped godly power, he would not sneak or scheme. If he had come, it would be outright and direct, a frontal assault on Father Nurgle's garden. Nurgle, who had been contentedly stirring his soups and conversing with the life in his domain, turned when the commotion rippled through his garden. As one of the four mighty chaos gods, he was not used to being challenged, let alone in his own territory, but the power radiating from Axis made him take notice. This was power far above ordinary demon princes. Warp creatures would be reduced to dust under it. A mountain of rotting flesh and greenery shifted as Nurgle appeared before the Saiyan. He spoke with an almost courtly politeness that was eerie coming from a god of pestilence. Axis, a guest from another world. My garden always welcomes visitors, but your arrival is exuberant. Come inside. Taste my carefully brewed soup. Axis bristled. I'm not here as a guest. I have only one purpose. Nurgle's dark green aura hardened like coagulated bile. State it then. How you answer will determine how I treat you. The Eldar life goddess Aisha is important to me. I'm taking her with me. Silence fell over the garden. Nurglings and daemons froze. Even the very air seemed to hold its breath. The Eldar goddess had been taken by Nurgle, torn from the real universe and prized as a spoil of war more than 10,000 years ago. To Nurgle, she was a trophy, his most cherished possession. No sane being in the warp would blithely demand her release. Nurgle's expression darkened, mixing insult and affront. Axis, I spoke to you with courtesy because I consider you a being of station. I invited you as a guest. Had you accepted, I might have allowed you to see Aisha, over my soup perhaps. But you come here and demand she be handed over? I refuse. Axis laughed, a dry, dangerous sound. Then there's nothing to discuss. We'll settle this by force. If I win, I take the life goddess. If I lose, I die. Oh, Nurgle purred, or you could become my daemon prince. I love life of all kinds. You would learn the true beauty of rot and pestilence. He gave a chilling, delighted chuckle. Such refinement. Then let's begin. Axis's tone was flat. Golden red light flared around him. Red fur bristled over his chest. His hair darkened, and his eyes were ringed with crimson markings. A shockwave rolled out that vaporized every lesser creature for hundreds of meters and peeled back a thick crust of viscous green earth, exposing the roiling pustule swamps beneath. He had pushed the Super Saiyan 4 fusion to its absolute limit. Black hair in wild disarray, red body fur, muscles taut and burning, pure, snarling combat hunger. Nurgle answered in kind. Dark green chaos power boiled off him until the warp itself trembled. His hulking body advanced, and the garden seemed to cough and shudder as it poured forth a torrent of living filth, clouds of pestilence made solid, a writhing cascade of wailing faces and slithering venomous coils. The air sizzled with corrosion, space bent and festered, the stench of sweet decay thickening into a tangible assault. Axis charged through it. He condensed his aura into a fist of light and punched, tearing open a path through the plague. Wherever the wind of his punch passed, corrupt flesh and screaming faces shattered like brittle glass. A golden-green meteor slammed into Nurgle's mountain of a belly, and a sound like a dead star cracking filled the garden. Pus and organ fragments sprayed like rain. Nurgle groaned, not in weakness, but in a grotesque, ecstatic delight. Oh, such life! What passion in that blow! Your strength is formidable. Nurgle's hand, slick with slime and moss, swept down with emotion that seemed ponderous but transcended space and time itself. In the warp, a god could be infinitely large. His swing carried the corrupting power to unmake. Axis crossed his arms to block, but the impact felt like being struck by a decaying star. Not only was his body thrown like a cannonball through mounds of rotting flesh, he absorbed a malicious curse intent on eroding will and soul. He smashed into a bubbling swamp and sank amid waves of stench. Super Saiyan plus Super Saiyan 4 had annihilated galaxies elsewhere, but against a chaos god who embodied plague and the cycle of decay, most of Axis's raw power only churned the rot. Nurgle's body absorbed and transformed it. He was fighting a bottomless mire, power lost in the depths. The pain lit a fire in Axis's blood. This was the fight a Saiyan craved, one where every strike mattered. He had power to protect his will, the god of Chi. He refused to be swallowed. "Excite me more, Nurgle," Axis shouted, and his body flared anew, gold, green, red, an insistence of elemental ferocity. He shifted again, shedding the giant furred form. Crimson flame licked his frame, which shrank back toward human proportions. His hair sank into a deep indigo like the night sky, threaded with a faint golden-green glimmer. A divine blue burned through him, mixed with the crimson fire of godly transformation and the underlying green of his Super Saiyan foundation. It was a form unlike any before. Super Saiyan God Blue suffused with the legendary gold and the old red God Flame. The fourfold light braided and boiled around him, violent and sovereign. Where Nurgle's presence had warped and rotted the warp, Axis's new aura smoothed and stabilized space, subtly purifying the putrid air and pushing back the filth. For the first time, Nurgle's voice carried a crack of astonishment. "You have this power?" A mountain-sized fist, dark green and suffused with corrupting light, slammed toward Axis. It should have crushed him, power monstrous enough to blight a star system, but it struck an invisible barrier. The fist hissed, as if ice had met white-hot sun. The corrupt light evaporated against the force field woven by Axis's multicolored divine aura. Axis's eyes burned with threefold fire. He lifted a hand and, with a casual push that belied its force, sent Nurgle's gargantuan punch apart. There was no cataclysmic explosion, only the sickening sound of space itself being compressed and torn. The god's fist disintegrated into a spray of dark green energy shards and rotten chunks of flesh. For the first time in the battle, Nurgle staggered back. Pain mixed with disbelief twisted his decaying visage. The garden shuddered as its master tasted genuine resistance. 390, Beating the Loving Father, Slaanesh versus Death. How could this be? He was actually injured, actually scarred. Nurgle, a chaos god, showed disbelief for the first time since his birth. He had never suffered such humiliation. "Ah! How dare you? How dare you harm my great body? How dare you harm a great god?" A sneer tugged at the corner of Axis's mouth. Harm his body? Even if Axis hadn't been so ruthless now, later, when the Plague War, the Emperor, or rather the Dark King, used Guilliman's body, Nurgle would be severely wounded. The difference was only the timing. Axis's strike had been merciless. The four-colored divine light did more than wreck flesh. It carried a special purifying aspect that countered plague and decay. Life-ruled power from another universe. Chi, what Axis had once called ordinary Chi, had, after countless years, matured into the power of a god of Chi. It brimmed not only with life energy, but with terrible destructive force. After all, Saiyan Ki had always been born for destruction. My turn. Axis vanished in an instant, not merely high-speed motion, but an almost spatial jump. The next heartbeat, he stood beside Nurgle's enormous, pus-dripping green head. His fist, wreathed in four-colored divine flames, gold, green, red, and blue, hurtled like a burning comet, carrying a purifying divine power straight into Nurgle's skull. Arrogant. Do you really think you can destroy me? I am invincible and immortal in the warp. Nurgle roared. Within Nurgle's garden, countless plague swamps boiled and erupted into millions of dark green tentacles, stabbing at Axis from every direction. Nurgle's head tilted sharply, trying to evade the blow. But Axis's speed and strength in his Super Saiyan Super Blue form were beyond imagining. The fist's path drew an arc through space, ignoring the plague tentacles that tried to pierce a god. Those very tentacles were forcibly purified and disintegrated as they neared the four-colored flames, and struck Nurgle's rotten neck, exposed by the tilt. God's Wrath Fist, purify! Axis followed with a flurry of punches. Boom, boom, boom. Axis's blows cracked the air like divine thunder. The four colors exploded at Nurgle's neck and congealed into a roaring, rotating vortex of energy that began to tear his warp body apart. Nurgle's dreadfully resilient divine flesh, infused with endless, corrupting life, was blasted open, leaving a titanic wound over 100 meters wide. Dark green, viscous blood, foul as asphalt, gushed out like an unleashed flood. Nurglings and plague daemons caught in the torrent were crushed and purified by the backlash of divine energy and the blood-choked current. "Roar!" Father Nurgle bellowed, a sound laced with pain and furious disbelief. Nurgle's garden convulsed and wailed. Many of his lesser minions poured their primal power back into him and were absorbed, the weakest shattered outright. Rotten ground split into bottomless chasms, boiling pus blood spewed into the sky. The garden began to collapse. For the first time ever, Nurgle's bulk was thrown backward by a force he could neither easily absorb nor adapt to. He nearly toppled. Axis seized the advantage. He vanished and reappeared above the wavering god. Raising both hands, he drew the four-colored divine light together into a titanic, peerless greatsword above his head, an instrument that seemed able to cleave star rivers. Golden-green lightning, red divine flame, and blue starlight coiled along the blade, radiating destruction and sanctity until the very warp trembled. "Taste my great health sword." Axis didn't bother with a fancy name. Simple and blunt suited him. The blade fell, bearing the will to judge all things. Where the sword passed, the warp itself was cleanly sliced open by a dark, eternal rift. The corrupt law of Nurgle's garden was torn apart and purged. That single stroke silenced Nurgle's region of the warp. Every supreme being watching, the Chaos Gods, the Corpse Emperor upon the Golden Throne, felt the impact. That otherworldly Saiyan named Axis had forced Father Nurgle, a god famed for his defense and endless vitality, into a desperate situation inside his own domain. The Super Saiyan bloodline, amplified by divinity, had erupted into power capable of shaking the warp's foundations. The moment Axis transformed into Super Saiyan Super Blue, the tide of battle had been utterly reversed. The warp was vast, and Father Nurgle's body would mend and reform, but Axis's blows were not meaningless. Each strike bore godlike potency. Divine power could injure even the gods of the warp, and once they were damaged beyond a limit, they could collapse. There was no truly immortal body in existence. Any being could be defeated, could be destroyed. Compared to the cataclysm around Nurgle, the other three battlefields were quieter. The Corpse Emperor's avatar drifted as if playing a chess game with Tzeentch, perhaps negotiating, perhaps scheming. Khorne, fascinated and enraged by his otherworld counterpart, had sent legions of greater demons to pursue him, but the counterpart's powers shared a kinship. The greater daemons hesitated to strike the Khorne that had come through Axis. Khorne's attention was divided. Only a sliver remained on Axis's Khorne. The rest focused on his foreign counterpart. Why did that version of himself possess such a perfect body? How could he act in the material universe? No, Khorne thought, he must seize that body. The duel between the Eldar death god and Slaanesh was unusual. Prophecy said Ennead should be born from within Slaanesh and then tear the Chaos God apart. In theory, he should have been Slaanesh's son, a god born from within her and destined to end her. But Axis's arrival had forced Ennead's birth to occur prematurely. He had appeared in the real universe, and though his power was far below that of a Chaos God, he had achieved a perfect divine body, something Slaanesh lacked. That gave him a crucial advantage, a god form that could walk in the real world. Even the mighty greater daemon Shalaxi and his champion Fulgrim could not defeat the Eldar death god that stood before them. "I must thank Axis, that intruder from another universe," Slaanesh purred in the Eye of Terror. "Young Eldar death god, originally, your birth from within me would have been impossible without killing me. Your birth should have been my death, yet Axis pulled you out of the void in a different way. Though you are born, your prophecy cannot ever be fulfilled now. I am safe. The prophecy will come true, only in a different way," Ennead said, brandishing his divine sword. "Your death will come by my hand, Slaanesh. My birth means your death. I have the power to kill all things." Slaanesh laughed, a sound both charming and terrifying. "Ha ha ha! Your power is at most that of a strong lesser god. Even if you had a body, it changes nothing. You will never dare enter the warp again. If you set a foot there, I will kill you." "Is that so?" Ennead replied. "I possess infinite potential. I can feel this body growing stronger. I will only become more powerful until one day I surpass you and slay you." Words of bravado. Still, Slaanesh's fear showed. If she truly wished him dead, she would not be meeting him here in the Eye of Terror. The birth of an interior god had always been a thorn in her side. Without that threat, she would have long since devoured the Eldar. "Then how about a compromise?" Slaanesh proposed, her voice syrup-sweet. "Surrender to me. Join my domain. I will spare your Eldar followers and let you receive worship. You would not be a demon prince, or even a greater demon, but a true god under my command. I could even, if you like, call you my husband in name. After all, technically, I am also an Eldar goddess." "Don't make me vomit, monster," Ennead said, disgust etched across his face. "Are you even female? You have no gender. How could you be my husband?" "How do you know unless you try?" Slaanesh sniffed. "Names mean nothing. Do as you like. I'll do as I please. Keep only one gender and you lose so much pleasure. You simply don't know how to enjoy yourself. You will never know the ultimate ecstasy. More words are useless, monster. 391. God-killing power. Slayer of Slaanesh. There's no point in talking, you perverted monster. I was born to kill you and nothing else. I will never join you. The Eldar death god roared, swinging the divine blade in his hand towards Slaanesh. If he did not strike now, he feared he would lose his nerve. He had come this far, into the Eye of Terror itself, and could not turn back without trying. He had to know how wide the gap truly was between himself and the Chaos Gods. Besides, with a physical body in the real universe, he could always retreat if he chose. Ynid's voice ground like cold stone. The sword he held, Silence's End, had been forged from the pure concept of death. It thrummed as it pointed at Slaanesh's shifting, terrible form. Wherever the blade's edge passed, the sticky, intoxicating energies of the warp seemed to freeze. Their color leached away, and leaving behind fleeting, ashen trails. Ah, such tedious stubbornness, my little death god, Slaanesh purred, lazy and cruel. His galaxy-sized body writhed inside the eye, countless faces appearing across his surface, some unbearably beautiful, others grotesque, projecting temptation and terror in equal measure. He did not strike directly. Instead, 1,000 sensory tentacles, woven from pure experience, some exuding dulcet sweetness, others dripping corrosive venom, others glittering with maddening light, coiled about Ynid like lovers and vipers at once, gentle and swift. Feel the pleasure, embrace your destiny, become a part of me and gain eternal ecstasy. Slaanesh's voice hammered on the edges of Ynid's soul, every syllable a siren spell meant to dismantle resolve and ignite any hidden desire. Ynid answered with a cold, resolute slash of Silence's End. There was no thunderous explosion, only the chilling sound of death. The power Ynid embodied was not mere force, but the very law of ending. For the Eldar, death had not truly existed until Slaanesh's birth. They had been reborn into the warp, unconsumed. Slaanesh's arrival changed that. The Eldar's souls could now be devoured. The concept of death itself, a finality unknown to them, was what Ynid carried. Silence's End did not simply cut, it enacted ending. When its edge touched the coiling sensory appendages, a shocking dissolution followed. Those tentacles, capable of corrupting gods and reshaping reality, withered instantly, as if plunged into acid. Where the blade passed, gray, scorch-like scars marred Slaanesh's vast surface. There was no blood, no putrescence, only an absolute stillness, as though a portion of existence had been erased. Ah! For the first time, billions of Slaanesh's faces showed genuine pain and horror. It was not physical agony, but the terror of an existential wound. Something fundamental to him had been touched, had been killed. For an instant, the eternally burning realm of pleasure beneath those gray marks froze. Decadent sounds and psychedelic lights stuttered before resuming in a twisted keening. This is the authority of death? Slaanesh's lazy composure cracked into sharp disbelief. He felt, beneath those ashen scars, his power unable to mend itself. The very essence of pleasure there was being eroded, extinguished. To him, the Eldar death god's personal strength might be negligible, but the law contained in his power struck like a genuine threat. Here was a weapon that could harm the origin of his being. If honed, it could slay a Chaos God. Do you understand now, Chaos God? Ynid's voice remained cold. Frost burned in his eyes. Slaanesh's fleeting alarm only fortified him. He was the savior the Eldar had needed, the vengeance of their gods. The prophecy has not failed, only changed shape. I was born for this. I have come to end you. Every one of my strikes digs your grave. You will die by my hand. Slaanesh's gargantuan form recoiled, the leering expressions on his billions of faces giving way to something more solemn. He regarded the newborn death god as a child clutching a poisoned blade. The child's own force hardly a danger, but the toxin on the dagger could kill. A fledgling deity with a body that could walk the real universe. If Ynid were allowed to grow, the consequences would be unimaginable. Giggle, giggle. Slaanesh's laugh split the eye's light and shadow, wild and warped. Interesting. So interesting. Little Ynid, you have given me such a delicious surprise. Do you know? All beings feel a thrill at the moment of death. It is one of my great joys. His perversity outstripped Ynid's imagination. If you stand still, I will help you. Let me sink my blade into your head so you may taste it. You probably don't need my help, Ennead countered. I have tasted the pleasure produced by the deaths of mortal races. I have been there. You wouldn't claim that my followers died for nothing, would you? Slaanesh taunted. Before Ennead's birth, he had been, in a sense, the youngest of the Eldar gods. Slaanesh possessed a singular appetite, the ability to devour lesser gods and grow stronger. Upon his birth, he rose to stand with the other 4 Eldar deities precisely by consuming them. Only 3 escaped him: Kala Mensha Kain, the goddess of war, the life goddess Asha, or Aisha, and the laughing god Chiao Gaoki. If he could devour this death god, his power would swell yet more. Temptation and erosion had failed against Ennead's death logic, so Slaanesh shifted tactics. His body broke apart and reformed into countlessly varied sensory abominations: beastly worms ringed with suckers, gorgons, hermaphroditic monstrosities with 6 arms and jointed fingers, shrieking with maddening, piercing screams. The death god's power was formidable, but Slaanesh could manufacture avatars by the legion. Then let me see if your nascent death can survive my carefully fashioned storm of pleasure. His voice hardened into killing intent. He would smother this dangerous seed before it could mature. The abominations surged like a tide, each carrying a fragment of chaos divinity that could rot a planet's life in an instant. Ennead tightened his grip on Silence's end. The blade's gray power flared like ashen light. Come, Slaanesh, with your destruction, witness the coming of death, he roared, hurling himself into the maw of the oncoming horde. Each flash of dying gray from Silence's end silenced a cluster of abominations, leaving deathly rents across Slaanesh's swollen, defiled domain. Slaanesh's offense was relentless, a torrent of sensation and corruption, but each wound spelled deeper apprehension. Ennead was like a small boat in a storm, always at the brink of being overturned, yet the sword of death in his hand was a venomous sting aimed at the Chaos God's heart. Slaanesh dared not be careless. This was a power that could, in truth, slay a god. 392. Killing people and destroying their hearts, Nurgle's mind shattered. On another battlefield, Axis had already gone berserk in Super Saiyan God mode and was savaging Father Nurgle. Shrill cries rang out as the huge green mountain of a man was kicked to the ground by a figure bathed in 4-colored light. A terrifying wave of energy shot from Axis's hand and struck Father Nurgle, forcing him to scream again and again as the battlefield became a chaotic mess of residual chi energy. Axis's attack was unimaginably powerful, far beyond anything Nurgle had expected. Even with the warp's energies constantly repairing him, Father Nurgle had no answer. Axis simply outclassed him. When Axis first reached Super Saiyan 4th stage, he could already stand toe-to-toe with a Chaos God, and upon breaking into the realm of the divine, his combat power had become incomparable. Now he was combining legendary Super Saiyan 4, and Super Saiyan God power, and the force he unleashed was something no single Chaos God could contend with. Axis at last understood what absolute power felt like. In truth, the 4 Chaos Gods were not so terrifying for raw strength alone. What made them dangerous were their rule-based powers and the warp itself. In the warp, the Chaos Gods were, in a sense, immortal, difficult to truly kill. But the godly chi Axis had integrated could permanently harm them. Even if it could not instantly slay Nurgle, it could steadily weaken him. If the fight continued, Nurgle might be stripped of his rank, and the Chaos Godhead could even seek a new host. Stop! Stop fighting! Tell me whatever you want. I'll agree to anything. Just stop! Nurgle finally broke down under the assault and began to beg for mercy. The proud, blustering Father Nurgle had turned completely around, from bluster to supplication. How long did you think you could hold out? I thought you'd last a little longer, Axis said, kicking the swollen green figure and wrapping him in chi energy, binding him. He'd finally achieved a small ambition he'd had since transmigrating, to beat a Chaos God until it begged. Respected strong one from another world, please, just tell me what you need. If you want the life goddess, I'll give her to you. She's not my wife. I only wanted her to try the thick soup I brew. Really, I'm a good person, Nurgle pleaded. Among the 4 Chaos Gods, he did have the gentlest, most doting personality. He treated everyone equally and believed he was kind. He claimed he'd invited the life goddess into his garden and even built a beautiful valley for her to enjoy. He only occasionally asked her to try his thick soup, Was that really so terrible? Bring the life goddess Aisha to me now, Axis said. I understand. Wait a moment. Nurgle looked disheveled as he used his power to open a massive sealed door. Behind it was the valley where Aisha lived, no different from the life goddess's residence Axis had first seen in his own world. The Aisha who emerged looked much the same too, though she was more exhausted and still bore the strong plague aura that hadn't yet faded. Nurgle, we agreed, now is not the time for soup. I had to digest the last batch first, Aisha said. Every time she took Nurgle's plague soup, she suffered severe damage and had to spend her life force to peel away its effects. She had only partially recovered from the last dose. Logically, he shouldn't force more on her, or it could harm her core. She froze when she saw the scene. The simple, honest green figure she knew was gone, replaced by a swollen, multicolored monstrosity, and beside him stood a tall, handsome god radiating four-colored light. What was happening? Why was such a god here in Nurgle's garden, and why had he beaten Nurgle? The god seemed to have won. The sight of Father Nurgle in such a state frightened her. Woo, poor Aisha, I'm so sorry. I couldn't protect you. He's too powerful. I tried my best, but he still wants to take you. Poor Aisha, I'm so sorry, Nurgle sobbed, utterly desperate. In his mind, they were truly in love. He remembered how, 10,000 years ago, when that purple pervert was born, he'd raced onto the battlefield, defeated the newborn Slaanesh, and brought Aisha to his garden for safety. He'd sealed the place to keep Slaanesh away, and for ages they had lived blissfully, until now, when a bully arrived, hurt him, and tried to steal his beloved. Axis rolled his eyes. Damn, this was pathetic. Nurgle made it sound like Axis was some clingy husband and Aisha his captured spouse. In reality, the life goddess desperately wanted to leave this cursed place. She felt nothing but hatred, not gratitude or love. Are you here to save me? Aisha asked Axis, frightened. His power was violent, but it also radiated a life energy that made her feel a strange closeness. This person did not feel like Slaanesh. If she didn't fall into Slaanesh's hands, being taken by him might not be unbearable. At least, she wouldn't be eaten or forced to drink his plague soups. Nurgle, do you really think I'm here to steal Aisha? Axis said, suddenly turning to the defeated god. Today he wasn't just going to beat him, he wanted to crush his spirit and collapse his self-image. Isn't that so? Even though you beat me, you can't destroy the love between Aisha and me. We truly love one another, Nurgle said proudly. Ha! Axis laughed, then strode to Aisha, picked her up, and placed her on his shoulder. See? She didn't even try to struggle. She's coming with me willingly. You're lying. You're stealing her out of my hands. With your power, how could she dare resist? Nurgle protested. All right, then I'll set her down. Axis put Aisha down and looked back at Nurgle. Aisha, I'm going to take you to live on a beautiful life planet. I don't like forcing people, so tell this dead lump, are you willing to come with me? I will, as long as you don't hand me over to the other Chaos Gods, Aisha said. Ha! See, you idiot. Do you really think Aisha loves you? You really think she actually drinks your disgusting thick soup willingly? Axis mocked, merciless. You, Aisha, have you forgotten our happy life? I built this garden for you. I brewed thick soup for you day and night. Nurgle's voice trembled. The blow hit him hard. Even the garden seemed to sense its master's sorrow and drooped with a growing rot. The decaying aura around them deepened. Aisha leaned close to Axis with a look of disgust. Please, who would want to stay with you? I want to live somewhere beautiful. Isn't my garden beautiful? Nurgle asked. No, it's rotten, foul-smelling, and disgusting. Nothing like beautiful, Aisha retorted bluntly. Look at your place. How could you claim beauty? You said you loved life. I love life too. We're the same, Nurgle insisted. Love life? Heh, I do love life, but not the kind you love. Rotting, plague-ridden life full of viruses and bacteria. I like whole, healthy life forms, Aisha said. But bacteria and viruses are life too. You can't discriminate against them, Nurgle argued. We're fundamentally different. You think you're being kind, but your kindness is cruel to me, she said. Ah! Why didn't you tell me sooner? If you'd said this earlier, I could have let you go, Nurgle wailed, distraught. He hadn't expected this after more than 10,000 years together. The life goddess he had taken from Slaanesh did not want to stay. So I'm taking her away. You have no objections, right? Axis said. He could, with time, keep feeding Nurgle his chi power and probably kill him, but he didn't know how long that would take. Time in the warp was meaningless. By the time he finished, thousands of years might have passed in the real world. Besides, killing Nurgle wouldn't yield Axis any real benefit and might even help the Dark King of this realm. Better for now to simply take Aisha away. You may leave, but remember this, Axis. Our feud is set. One day I will reclaim all I've lost, Nurgle snarled. Losing today didn't mean he would concede forever. He would grow stronger. Good. I look forward to it, Axis said with a thumbs up and a smile. Normal people would eliminate a threatening opponent, but Scions thought differently. They wanted their enemies to get stronger. More of a challenge meant more fun. If Nurgle ever rose again, Axis would only be happier. No wonder you could bring Khorne here from another world. You're just like him, a warmonger. Aisha, following him won't be better than staying with me. One day you'll realize that, Nurgle said. A flicker of doubt crossed Aisha's face. Could Axis really be like Khorne? I can promise you this. The Aisha from another world follows me, Axis said. That finally relaxed the life goddess completely. Axis didn't waste more words on Nurgle. He took Aisha and tore through the warp, leaving Nurgle's garden behind. After Axis left, other battlefields shifted as well. Khorne smiled and withdrew from his enraged counterpart in this universe, departing amid the other's gnashing teeth. The Corpse Emperor silently slipped out of Tzeentch's magic castle. The Eldar death god, who had been fighting off overwhelming swarms of Slaanesh abominations, breathed a sigh of relief and fled the Eye of Terror without looking back. Are you just going to run away like that, Eldar death god Ennead? Slaanesh thundered. Don't worry. I'm making a strategic retreat. I'll be back to deal with you, and I won't make you wait long, Ennead replied with a grim promise. Soon the Corpse Emperor, Khorne, the death god, Axis, and Aisha all gathered at a secret stronghold within the webway. Axis had used cultivator seeds to fashion all three bodies. Gathered together now, the atmosphere felt odd. Apart from Khorne, who knew the truth, the other two had no idea what cultivating a body with those seeds entailed. And unlike Khorne, who had been given a first-generation seed and could channel chi like the life goddess, the others had only second-generation seeds. It seems our plan worked, Axis. You brought forth the life goddess, the Corpse Emperor said first. Axis had used those miraculous seeds to give physical forms to many subspace gods. Even the chaos gods from another universe had been given suitable avatars, surprisingly capable of housing their true selves. The divine bodies were stronger than the originals and could tap chi, though they lacked divine power. But the gods could reclaim their power from those bodies without much trouble. Axis had kept the most perfect key from him. Apparently his place in Axis's regard wasn't high enough. Khorne let out a cold laugh as he regarded the Corpse Emperor's avatar. Heh, what a surprise, an old acquaintance. The Emperor of this universe is finished. For a mortal to come so far is impressive and tragic. The Emperor never met Axis. There was only one path for the human race: darkness, cold, despair. Isn't there also an Eldar death god here? The Corpse Emperor asked. The feeling is mutual, Ennead, the Eldar death god replied. I never expected to run into a chaos god here. It seems Axis even allied with chaos gods from another universe. Axis's relationship with the chaos gods was not simply hostile. Then, he had even gifted them powerful bodies. The Corpse Emperor scowled but did not show fear. Now, bolstered by suitable avatars, he felt confident he could defeat the chaos forces. He had insisted all along that in the coming fight against Slaanesh, they would be able to stand against the chaos gods, even destroy them. Axis cut to the chase. I didn't call you here for pleasantries. Dark King, I'm taking Kratos with me. You have no objections. The Corpse Emperor's expression shifted. What are you saying? The Dark King is already suppressed by me. Don't put on a show, Axis snapped. I'm not subtle. I've uncovered your true identity. Our universe's Khorne is here. Do you think he wouldn't recognize you? Do you think he wouldn't see what would happen if you asked me to devour this universe's Khorne? The Corpse Emperor went pale. The thing he feared most had happened. Axis knew. He had hidden it well, but not well enough. How did you see through me? The Dark King, who had taken the Emperor's body, demanded. I didn't notice at first, but you were reckless, Axis said. When you suggested I devour this universe's Khorne, I knew something was wrong. Devouring a subspace god is the most foolish plan. Khorne and I go back a long way. His greatest wish is to break free from the Chaos God's control, to move between the warp and the real universe. He would never accept being devoured. Ennead's face changed when Axis mentioned Khorne's true desire. He edged closer to Axis, wary. The Dark King was an enemy of all living things in every universe. When he truly manifested, he could annihilate worlds. The Dark King was a god of destruction. The Corpse Emperor forced a laugh. Yes, I was impatient. If I'd hidden it longer, I might have gained more. He realized, belatedly, why Axis had only given him second-generation seeds. Axis had restrained him, kept him imperfect. Even so, with this new body, he was far freer in the real universe than before. His combat power, combined with the Avatar, approached what the Emperor had wielded 10,000 years ago, perhaps surpassed it. So decide, Dark King, will you be my enemy, or will you bring my son over? Axis asked. The Corpse Emperor smiled, conciliatory. No desire to be your enemy, Axis. I'll hand Kratos over. I apologize for earlier. I hope we can cooperate. At heart, we have no conflict. Axis snorted. You can believe that if you like. As long as you don't cause trouble in my universe, I don't care what happens to yours. Ennead, at Axis's side, grew desperate. You can't abandon us? Don't we still have an alliance? You can't just walk away and leave me to deal with these powers alone. I thought the human emperor was a god of order, one who could stand with us, but now he's a chaos god, more malevolent than the 4 chaos lords. No wonder the laughing god hid in the Black Library and never came out. This universe has no hope. When the Horus Heresy happened and the Emperor sat on the Golden Throne, its hope was already broken. The Corpse Emperor, his voice softer, almost rueful, answered Ennead. Don't be alarmed. Our alliance still holds. I will remain allied with your Eldar. And believe this if you can, I may never destroy this universe. Both Ennead and Axis stared in disbelief. The Chaos God who had threatened worlds was now saying he did not want to end everything? Do you really expect me to take that at face value? Axis said coldly. The Dark King shrugged. Think about it. If I wanted to be born fully, I could be right now. I could stop suppressing the decaying corpse on the Golden Throne, absorb the warp's energy, and burn this universe away. You all know what would happen, but is annihilation truly interesting? A world of nothingness would be far worse than this cesspool. You never intended to destroy the universe? Axis pressed. Does destruction have purpose? I could do it now, but why leave only emptiness? I used to want a body that could walk the real universe. The avatars I made developed self-awareness. One betrayed me, but now I have an avatar that can move freely, so I want to live and enjoy it. You may scoff, but I've seen this universe through the Emperor's eyes. I saw beauty, and I felt human emotions. If I had no human feelings, why would I have seized my avatar's will? I could have let him do my work. Destroying the universe is easy. Anyone can do it. I don't want to. Axis sneered. Your reasoning is convenient. Don't expect me to trust you. Suit yourself. The Dark King's tone turned businesslike. I'll inform Kratos. As for the living Saint Celestine, I've revoked her permissions. Take her if you wish. I'm leaving. With a last shrug at Axis, he tore through reality and departed. Only Ennead remained, stunned, staring after him. Lord Axis, he said, urgency in his voice. I've collected over a dozen fragments of Kalementia Kane across the galaxy. About 80% of the War God's relics are already in my hands. A few may still be hidden. I'll set out at once to find them all. Please, help us save this universe. He could not bear to lose Axis, the only powerful ally who had just bested a Chaos God and the one support he truly trusted. Wait, back up. Where is this? The Eldar Death God Ylid couldn't bring himself to accept Axis's calm assurance that the alliance between their races could continue. Gods exist for a purpose, and without it, they wither. The Dark King's purpose was annihilation. Sooner or later, he would act. Even if Axis pledged to do the impossible, the Eldar Death God could not believe Axis would stand aside while the Chaos Gods and a Dark King ran rampant. If Axis truly left them to face those horrors alone, how could they hope to survive? Axis met Ylid's doubt with the steady patience of someone who had long since learned to shoulder responsibility. Sometimes you must rely on yourself, he said, but I always keep my word. If your world truly faces annihilation, I will return to defeat the Dark King. It was part reassurance, part promise. He meant it. Once he had mastered the god of destruction's power and grown stronger, he would eradicate the Dark King. That being's existence was an affront to the universe itself. What Axis needed most right now, though, was time. Time to grow, to investigate the mysterious architects behind these events, perhaps the old ones whispered of in legends. Relief washed over Iliad's face. He handed over the fragments of the Eldar god of war he had collected. "Thank you, Lord Axis. With your promise, I am relieved. Please accept these." Iliad's manner toward Aisha, the Eldar life goddess Axis had brought, was awkward but deferential, like a petitioner meeting a noble he had not expected to encounter. Axis answered Iliad's beseeching eyes with practical counsel. "Don't be complacent. Your potential is great. Train to become stronger. With a true physical body, you can break your old limits. Your current power rivals Slanesh himself. One day you could support a part of the heavens." "I will, Lord Axis," Iliad vowed. Better to rely on one's own strength than to depend on others. He would not reveal himself recklessly to the Dark King. As long as the Dark King did not attack the Eldar directly, this fragile coalition could endure. They exchanged a few more measured words, then Iliad departed to return to the Death Guard and gather the Eldar's forces. Axis, Aisha, and the life goddess from the other world returned to the real universe, their minds already attentive to the possibility the Dark King, or the Emperor posing as the Dark King, would send agents in response. A few days later, while Kratos was engaged in the Indomitus Crusade alongside Rogel Dorn, an imperial edict summoned him. The Emperor himself opened a warp channel, permitting Kratos and his wife, the living Saint Celestine, to cross and stand before Axis. During the wait, Axis had used the cosmic rift to bring Aisha to his life planet. The meeting between the two Eldar life goddesses was strange at first, but being both life goddesses, communication was no problem. Axis replicated his technique. He had the life goddess from the other universe project her life god star into the life planet inside the webway. The two life domains superimposed, and the great world tree that was taking root received a tremendous infusion of vitality. Its trunk thickened, its branches swelled. The fusion of two life spirits accelerated growth. Axis then used seeds from a first-generation cultivator to fashion a divine body for the otherworld Aisha. The Aisha who had already ascended to World King God in Axis's universe stepped forward to assist, lending divine life power to help her counterpart stabilize and perfectly merge with her new form. "This is incredible. I actually have a body. Thank you, Lord Axis, and thank you, my other self." The newly embodied life goddess breathed. "You're welcome. Now we'll work together to help Axis cultivate the world tree. With both of you, it will mature far faster," the World King God Aisha replied. She would teach her counterpart how to channel World King God power, and together they would shorten the tree's maturation period, perhaps far under 1,000 years. When two life goddesses of this stature combined their efforts, the result was greater than a simple sum. "Get along well," Axis added. Then he turned to Khorne. "You should return to your realm and grow familiar with that body. I look forward to greater things, and to a good fight." "Understood." Khorne took hold of his newly forged physical form and returned to his brass throne. He was, perhaps, the first deity since the warp's birth to obtain a true body. With the urgent matters of the life goddesses and Khorne settled, Axis returned alone to the Warhammer 40,000 universe, 10,000 years hence, to await the arrival of his son. In the warp, he had been locked in a titanic struggle with Nurgle. Time there was meaningless, but in real space, more than 10 years had passed. The Indomitus Crusade had moved into its second phase. Kratos and the living Saint Celestine tore through space and stood before him. Kratos' features were a mask of confusion. "Father, why summon me now? The Indomitus Crusade is at a pivotal point." The war had been hard fought. Axis's intervention had quelled the plague campaign of the Chaos Gods, and the Imperium had scored a staggering victory. Mortarion, driven down, had been captured alive, an unthinkable triumph. Morale soared. With 2 Geneseed Primarchs returned and Kratos at the Emperor's side, the Imperium was poised to reclaim lost territories. Axis laid a hand on his son's shoulder. "There are things I need to tell you, but not here. Return with me. Take your wife. Let us go back to my world." Celestine's eyes widened. Lord Axis, we cannot simply abandon the battle now. Axis was gentle but firm. We are not from this world. We have done what we could here. It is time to return home. He could not bring himself to explain the true state of affairs, the Emperor's disappearance and the Dark King's ascendance. Celestine's faith was absolute. To reveal such a thing now could break her. Better to leave it unsaid. Kratos hesitated. You promised grandfather we would seek the remaining Primarchs. Why leave now? There is no feast that lasts forever. Axis's reply was quiet. Kratos accepted it and did not press further. He and Celestine stood at Axis's side, prepared to depart. Axis drew a long, steadying breath and activated his god of chi. He ripped open a rift in space, only this time the effort felt different. It was as if the universe fought back. The strain on his god of chi was enormous, far greater than when he had opened the rift before. Energy flowed from him so fast it felt like a broken dam. On the far side of the tier, Axis sensed something else, a strange, irresistible pull. Kratos reacted first, sensing danger. He shoved Celestine through the breach to safety. The living saint staggered into the emptied cosmos and turned to find the rift closing. But for Axis and Kratos, it was too late. A black maw of gravity seized them. They were ripped from the threshold and dragged, helpless, through the dark. Celestine stared at the emptiness where they had stood, stunned and alone. She had no idea what had happened. When the world steadied, Axis and Kratos found themselves violently thrown onto the surface of a planet. Axis dropped to his knees, gasping. The effort had nearly destroyed him. He had expended over 90% of his god of chi. Only the endurance of his training kept him from collapse. Father, are you all right? Kratos was already on his feet, supporting him. Axis's eyes darted across the horizon. Then he froze. Amid the foreign sky and alien landscape, he tasted something impossible. 2 pulses of pure-blood Saiyan ki, and another, cold and regal, like King Frieza's energy. No, it couldn't be. This is the Dragon Ball universe. This is my homeland. Axis's frown deepened. No way. Could he really have returned? After hundreds of years of being stuck in the Warhammer universe, he had gotten used to that reality. He never expected to come back to where he started. In truth, he'd never actually been to Earth before. When Vegeta exploded, Axis had fled in a spaceship bound for Earth, but the ship had landed on Fenris instead. Father, are you okay? You look strange. Did you use a lot of energy just now? Kratos hurried forward to support him. Axis's expression shifted. He swept his senses over the unfamiliar planet. The air was clean, the sky a deep blue, the environment lush, like an imperial garden world, maybe even a paradise world. Such worlds would normally be protected by the Empire and become playgrounds for nobles. Axis waved to show he was fine, then closed his eyes and probed more carefully. Yes, that was definitely Frieza's key. He remembered, from the time he'd fled Vegeta, remotely sensing King Frieza's terrible oppressive aura. That memory was still fresh. Of the other 2 unfamiliar Saiyan auras, one was recognizable, Vegeta. The other he didn't immediately place. Both, however, were fundamentally different now. Each contained traces of godly ki. They hadn't fully become gods like Axis, but these 2 had clearly comprehended Super Saiyan God and, after that, Super Saiyan Blue. Kratos, do you remember how I taught you to use ki? Axis asked suddenly, his eyes bright. When he'd been trapped in the Warhammer universe, Kratos had never been able to comprehend ki, a constant regret for Axis. Now he could correct that. Ki couldn't be mastered in the Warhammer universe because there was no warp-based psychic power there to substitute. But here in the Dragon Ball world, ki was the foundation of everything. Once one's strength reached a certain level, Kai comprehension followed. Kratos could already go Super Saiyan 2 and had the golden great ape form. He would certainly be able to perceive and use ki here. Kratos blinked, surprised. You mean you want me to start learning ki now? Axis had taught him the method before, but back then it had been adapted to channel psychic power, not true ki. Speaking of psychic power, Kratos' face changed. His psychic connection was gone. He couldn't sense the warp or draw power from it. Without the warp, his psychic power no longer existed. Axis patted his shoulder. I've got bad news and good news. Which do you want first? Bad first, I guess. Kratos rolled his eyes. The bad news is we're in another universe, not just a parallel branch. Axis's tone was matter-of-fact. And the good? Kratos asked. Haha, the good news is this is my homeland, the true home of the Saiyans. Here you can learn ki properly. Try what I taught you." Axis laughed with indescribable relief. He'd somehow been brought back home, whether by the Dark King, the Old Ones, or someone else. He didn't know. But returning was an opportunity. Here he could become stronger, and the Dragon Ball world had countless special resources. He'd bring back surprises for Kratos. Kratos nodded and sat cross-legged as instructed. He took a long breath and followed his father's method to stir the energy within. Almost immediately, he felt his cells come alive, as if his body recognized the rules of this world. Saiyan blood stirred, absorbing ambient energy. Ki began to form inside him. A sudden, explosive golden aura flared out, the true color of a Super Saiyan, not the psychic simulation they'd used before. Kratos opened his eyes. His pupils had changed to a greenish hue instead of the old golden color. "Incredible, Father. I feel it. The ki. My whole body's buzzing." I didn't realize how important ki was for a Saiyan. Although he was only half Saiyan, his Saiyan traits were fierce. Hunger for battle, regenerative vitality, and now ki amplifying that life force. Axis pulled him into an excited hug. "Good. You finally felt it. This is great. Soon we'll be able to spar for real." The thought of having an evenly matched opponent thrilled him. A true Saiyan's first instinct was to measure strength against strength. Far away on another side of the planet, a different scene was unfolding. Frieza, revived and furious, had nearly killed Gohan before Son Goku intervened. In the sky, a deep blue aura clashed with a golden one, Son Goku fighting at full power against Golden Frieza. "Oh ho ho, impressive." Golden Frieza sneered. "I thought my current strength would be enough to crush you, but you managed to pull out a transformation like this." Goku grinned. "You've gotten stronger, Frieza, but I'm not weak either. This is fun." In his Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan state, he'd finally found an opponent worth using full strength on. Frieza's progress was remarkable. Reaching Golden Mode in 4 months was no small feat. Then both fighters froze, heads turning toward a distant disturbance. "Such strong ki, stronger than Gohan," someone gasped. "Damn it! Another Saiyan!" Frieza's face hardened. Years of hatred and the recent months of training made him sensitive to extraordinary ki. He could sense a terrifying presence in the distance. Goku and Frieza weren't the only ones who noticed. Angel Whis, watching the fight with serene interest, also sensed something odd. A Saiyan aura had appeared, not unusual, but layered with another ki that was unmistakably godly. If Lord Beerus had to face such energy without using his own destruction energy, he might not be confident of victory. Could this be a true Super Saiyan god? Beerus had come to Earth long ago seeking a rival at that level. A genuine godly Saiyan would be very interesting. Nearby, Vegeta frowned. "Whis, do you sense something?" "What I sense is different," Whis said with a slight smile. "You only perceived one ki, but I sensed 2. 2? I only felt 1. Vegeta protested. "Try assuming your Super Saiyan God form, Vegeta," Whis suggested vaguely. In normal or regular Super Saiyan states, some godly auras could remain hidden. Only the God form could detect them fully. Goku, who had only just noticed a powerful Saiyan aura, stared into the distance with excitement. He hadn't seen the godly presence before, but when he pushed himself into Super Saiyan Blue, he could sense it. Frieza, puzzled by Goku's sudden distraction, moved without warning, teleporting behind and delivering a heavy blow to Goku's back. Goku cried out, stumbling. "You ambushed me, Frieza," he rasped. "Don't twist it. I'm not here to play. I'm here for revenge, to kill you," Frieza snarled. Goku laughed breathlessly. "Sorry, I don't have time to deal with you. There's someone else I need to check out." He unleashed a stronger blue aura, his full power flaring. In Super Saiyan Blue, he outclassed Golden Frieza. The latter's prideful but imperfect mastery of his own form left him struggling to match Goku's speed and control. Frieza bellowed in frustration. If only he'd trained another month to fully master Golden Mode, he might have stood a chance. But Goku had no intention of giving him more time. He planned to beat Frieza quickly and then investigate the divine ki. Axis, sensing the shifting field, Whis, Vegeta, Goku, Frieza, turned to Kratos. A fight's about to break out. I won't have time to babysit you." He produced a spirit tree fruit from his spatial pocket and took a bite. The fruit's restorative power flowed through him. Since he hadn't emptied his godly reserves, one fruit and a short rest was enough to bring him back to full power. Kratos, Axis continued. Remember this. Don't provoke the blue-haired one. Apart from him, hit whoever you want. Father, why start as enemies right away? Kratos protested. What do you know, kid? Axis scoffed. This is how Saiyans greet each other. When we meet, don't talk. Fight first. Kratos fell silent. Axis's words left Kratos speechless. Were all Saiyans like his father? Were his father's kin, his people, also fighting maniacs? A cold premonition crawled up Kratos' spine. He had never known his father as a child. His mother had been in a coma. When Axis finally returned, Kratos had already come of age, officially a gene seed Primarch, capable of standing on his own and leading hundreds of thousands of space marines of the Golden Legion. He fought for the Imperium, for his father's glory, and for humanity. Meeting his father for the first time had been a shock. The man was straightforward to the point of bluntness, a pure battle addict. After that, his mother, Kasha, woke and quietly told him things Axis had said about their race. According to her, most Saiyans had personalities much like Axis's, some even more extreme. Axis had once told Kasha his temperament was fairly normal for a Saiyan. Don't be nervous, kid, he'd laughed. This is how we greet each other. After a fight, have a drink and a big meal. There's nothing we can't solve. Since arriving in the Dragon Ball universe, Axis had been itching to meet Son Goku. Goku was the first to transform into a Super Saiyan in the original tale, the legendary warrior that shocked the anime world 40 years ago. Every Saiyan in the story, Axis believed, eventually faced Goku. It was a matter of pride. He'd trained for centuries longer than Goku and even had the legendary Super Saiyan physique. He wanted a proper fight. For that reason, he planned not to use any godly chi against Kakarot this time. As you wish, father. But honestly, if they aren't enemies, I don't really want to fight them, Kratos said. He'd inherited some of Axis's combat talent, but not the bloodthirsty temperament. Under the Emperor's tutelage, he'd learned restraint. He trained religiously, though. That martial culture was ingrained. You're my son. Of course you'll join, Axis insisted. There's this Kakarot's kid, son Gohan. I'll take the dad, fight Kakarot, while you fight his son. Axis had long disliked Gohan. Tremendous potential squandered in a weak ending. If Gohan had trained seriously, he might have surpassed Goku. Kratos, Axis thought, had far greater promise. Disciplined, relentless in training, even if not eager to brawl. If it's just sparring, I'm fine. Kratos nodded. A friendly match wouldn't be to the death. They were still talking when Axis's expression snapped sharp. The hair on his arms stood up as a horrifying energy signature tore at the planet. Father, something's destroying the planet. What is it? Kratos demanded. Axis's eyes narrowed. This planet is about to be destroyed. My guess, one of my kin acting out. Let's get into orbit. He just felt the chi signatures of Son Goku, Vegeta, and Frieza. The energies were enormous. Goku and Vegeta bore remnants of godly chi, the mark of Super Blue. With Frieza present, Axis could tell roughly where the timeline sat. Resurrection F. King Frieza had trained 4 months, mastered Golden Frieza, and come for revenge, only to be defeated and given a chance to self-destruct, just like in the original story. Father, we can stop him, Kratos said. I can't pull psychic power from the warp here, but my innate psychokinesis is still strong. I can rush in, restrain the explosion source, and I have a time tech device to pause time locally. The Imperium still carried relics from the dark age of technology, time tech that could freeze time within a limited area. Some designs imitated Necron engineering. In Kratos' hands, the device plus his psychokinesis could prevent a planetary detonation. Since he couldn't draw on the warp, he'd learned to channel chi into his telekinesis after arriving in this universe. The two worked together, not at cross purposes. Axis considered for a beat, then nodded. Father and son shot toward the epicenter. King Frieza laughed maniacally, bathed in golden light. Damn you, Frieza, Goku roared. I spared you once. Oh, Son Goku, your mercy is amusing, Frieza spat. You let me live. If I can't kill you, I'll make you suffer. Vegeta cursed Kakarot under his breath, always too soft, never delivering the blow, and Whis watched impassively. To an angelic attendant, a planet's destruction was a trifle. He could reverse time with a wave if he chose. For the moment, he watched. Just as Frieza was about to trigger the self-destruct, a strange golden glow wrapped him, then a blue beam struck him. The explosion's energy frozen mid-arc. Goku stared, surprised. What happened? He asked. Kratos hovered in front of him. Don't worry. A gentleman asked me to help. I've used time tech to temporarily seal the area around him. I'll use psychokinesis to send him off planet so the blast won't touch Earth. Goku breathed out in relief. Thank you. Thought Earth was done for. You scared me. Kratos nodded, then thrust his palms. His psychokinesis bloomed, a force field reaching Frieza. The time device anchored the moment, and Kratos pushed with everything he had. Frieza struggled, trapped, furious, but he could not escape. Kratos hurled him beyond the atmosphere and sent him spiraling outward, where the self-destruct detonated safely near Jupiter with a cataclysmic roar. Frieza's dying howl was pure hatred, cursing the Saiyan race one last time. Typical, Axis thought. Damned monkeys always spoiling his plans. Axis didn't look at his son in that moment. He looked instead at Whis. He could sense Whis' existence, could see him, but even by channeling godly chi, he could not sense Whis' presence the way he would other beings. That eluded him. Intriguing, an opponent unlike any Dark King or Chaos God. Goku zipped over, smiling. Hey, I'm Son Goku. Are you a Saiyan too? What's your name? Axis grinned back. Axis, I'm a Saiyan. I escaped before Frieza attacked planet Vegeta when I was 6. I survived. You look strong. Goku's excitement was obvious. This guy could be a real fight. Axis returned the enthusiasm. Your strength's not bad. How about a spar? You and Vegeta come at me together. Vegeta bristled. No way I team up with Kakarot. If we fight, it's one-on-one. Axis's smile widened. That probably won't be enough. The two of you alone aren't enough for me. What? Axis's casual tone deeply offended a certain proud prince. What nerve this man had. Only Whis, the angel standing nearby, wore a faint smile. By his estimate, even if Vegeta and Goku fought together, they probably couldn't force out the full power of this Saiyan named Axis. Maybe Lord Beerus could. I don't like teaming up either. If it's a spar, I usually go it alone, Goku said, stepping forward. Even against formidable foes like Frieza, Cell, or Majin Buu, he preferred to face them head-on. Fusion was only for desperate times. Heh, it's not that I'm trying to discourage you, but if you're wondering why, it's because I'm the legendary Super Saiyan, Axis said. The Broly of this world was different. If this were the old Broly, he would indeed bear that title. But Broly here could only tap the power of the Great Ape. Axis, however, claimed the legendary form himself. The legendary Super Saiyan? Then I'll be the one to take him down. Kakarot, you just had a big fight with Frieza. You probably haven't recovered. I'll be your opponent, Vegeta declared. Watching Goku's battle with Frieza had stirred the prince's blood. How can you do that, Vegeta? You're cheating. I called dibs, Goku grumbled, pouting. You aren't in good shape. Go rest up and recover, Vegeta snorted, stepping toward Axis. Actually, I'd suggest the two of you go at him together. Axis is extremely powerful, far beyond what either of you can handle, Whis warned. Vegeta coldly snorted and surged forward, launching his fist at Axis. Axis didn't bother to dodge. He stood still and let Vegeta's punch hit his face. Nothing moved. Put some effort into it, Prince Vegeta. Didn't you eat? Axis said, smirking. Damn it, you bastard, take this. Vegeta backed off and flared his ki. A flash of golden light, and he was a Super Saiyan. He blinked behind Axis and delivered a spinning kick aimed at his head, but Axis simply raised an arm and blocked it. The recoil made Vegeta's foot go numb. Not giving up, Vegeta retreated, gathered a massive amount of ki overhead, and unleashed the prince's attack. Terrifying energy struck Axis's position, and an enormous explosion rocked the area. Kratos, standing by, watched with an odd sensation. This man who was kin to his father seemed a little weak. His physique and style didn't match his father's, and the move he'd used carried a strange familiarity. Kratos' father had favored a move like that for clearing out small fry, never used against real challengers. The prince's attack, Kratos' father had said, was all show and very little impact against experts. Indeed, as Axis had promised, when the smoke cleared, he was standing there with his arms crossed, looking at Vegeta as if amused. Come on, don't bring petty tricks to make a fool of yourself, he said. Damn it, how dare you look down on me, the Prince of Saiyans? Vegeta snapped. Golden light flared from him, lightning crackled, and he pushed himself into Super Saiyan 2. His hair bristled, and electricity danced around his aura. You could have gone straight to Super Blue, Axis observed. In that state, I wouldn't even be interested in moving. He seemed irritated that Vegeta had tested him with weaker forms first, just like Goku usually did. What right have you to say that? You haven't transformed either. Don't tell me you can't become a Super Saiyan. You said you were the legendary Super Saiyan. Transform and let me see, Vegeta demanded. You want me to transform? I might frighten you, Axis said with a playful smile. Vegeta had never met the movie Broly in Dragon Ball Super. He'd never been stunned into paralysis by a legendary aura. Maybe this would be the moment to see the humbled prince again. Even though Vegeta could go blue, Axis's words hinted at something worse. You bastard, don't get cocky, Vegeta roared and charged. In Super Saiyan 2, his speed and power were extreme. He vanished and struck with a devastating punch straight into Axis's midsection. Take this, you arrogant fool. The blow landed, yet the sound that answered was a dull, heavy thud like hammer on steel. Axis hadn't even moved. His arms stayed folded. Vegeta's knuckles slammed against a body that didn't budge. A brutal recoil ripped up Vegeta's arm, bones screaming. His arm instantly went numb. Ugh! Vegeta grunted, shock written across his face. A full-power Super Saiyan 2 strike, and this opponent hadn't even flinched. How was that possible? Wow, this guy's incredible, Goku said, eyes shining. He was dying to jump in and fight. I've let you have 3 moves. Now it's my turn, Axis said. Vegeta tried to pull back, but Axis's speed was beyond thought. A massive hand, slow in appearance yet unavoidable, came down and clamped onto Vegeta's outstretched arm. His fingers closed like steel. Ah! Vegeta cried. It felt like his bones would be crushed. Even his blazing Super Saiyan 2 speed was nothing before this opponent. Axis's smile widened. The Prince of Saiyans, huh? Is this all you've got? How disappointing. With a casual flick, Axis unleashed overwhelming force. Vegeta went flying like a pebble casually thrown by a giant, a golden streak of light slamming him into a distant mountain. The impact leveled the peak in a thunderous explosion of rock and dust. Vegeta! Goku shouted, stunned. He knew Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta's power, and even at full strength, he'd never be thrown like that. Axis's strength was unfathomable. Even more alarming, Axis had been fighting in his base form. Kratos frowned, watching smoke rise from the ruined mountain and noticing his unmoving father. A hint of realization flashed across his face. His father had not been taking this seriously. The way he'd fought felt like teasing a child, not real combat. Before the dust had settled, an even fiercer aura erupted from the wreckage and blew the remaining smoke aside. Vegeta hovered in the air, his hair and brows now an intense blue ki flickering around him. Super Saiyan Blue. He'd finally revealed his strongest form. Blood trickled from his mouth, humiliation fueling a furious, blind rage. His pride as Saiyan royalty burned into a reckless hunger for destruction. You bastard! I'll make you pay for your arrogance. Feel the wrath of the Saiyan Prince, Vegeta roared. Even now, Axis seemed slightly more interested. You wanted to see the legendary Super Saiyan? I'll show you. He howled, and a terrifying golden-green aura burst from him. His height shot from over 2 meters to nearly 3.5. Muscles swelled, hair flared into a golden-green explosion, his eyes went white, and a raw, savage ki radiated from him. The legendary Super Saiyan. Vegeta's pupils dilated in disbelief. He immediately dropped out of Super Saiyan Blue and sank to his knees. Deep within his bloodline, something primal awakened, an ancient memory that stirred terror. The purer the Saiyan blood, the more attuned to the evil, feral aura Axis radiated. It struck at the oldest part of Vegeta's heritage. We're gonna be killed. We'll all be wiped out. He is the legendary Super Saiyan. We can't win. In that instant, only fear filled Vegeta's heart. At that moment, the proud Saiyan Prince Vegeta had completely shed the pride that normally defined him as both ruler and warrior. There was none of his usual arrogance left. Only raw fear showed in his eyes, and his body shook uncontrollably. Impossible. We can't win. We're all going to die. He'll kill every one of us, Vegeta said, collapsing to his knees. What's wrong with you, Vegeta? Damn it, what happened to you? Goku sprang forward, eyeing Axis warily. Axis gave off a different kind of presence now, but as a lower-class Saiyan Goku couldn't fully perceive the legendary Super Saiyan aura. Don't struggle, Kakarot. We're finished. He's the legendary Super Saiyan, a warrior born once every 1,000 years among our people, the most brutal fighter in the universe, Vegeta stammered. Vegeta, pull yourself together. Are you even the Vegeta I know? Goku demanded, grabbing him by the collar. This was unreal. After just one exchange, Vegeta was reduced to this? Was Axis really that terrifying? In their previous clash, Vegeta had been on the back foot, and when Goku transformed into Super Blue, this opponent had shifted into a Super Saiyan form he had never seen. Goku had expected an earth-shaking battle to learn the enemy's strength, not to see Vegeta paralyzed by fear. I knew it would be like this, Kakarot, or Son Goku if you prefer. You're a low-class Saiyan. You can't sense my power or my aura. Vegeta is different. With his royal blood, arguably the purest Saiyan blood left, he can feel my aura and the terror of the Super Saiyan. Axis explained. So Vegeta's frightened because he can actually perceive your aura? Goku asked, surprised. Right. If he can't overcome that fear, he won't accomplish anything in his life. Axis had assumed that after the Majin Buu arc and the God of Destruction's influence, a Vegeta who could become Super Blue would have withstood his aura. He hadn't expected the prince to react just like in the original movie. But Axis's power was far beyond Broly's in that film. Even in his base form, he could easily beat Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta, and after transforming his power skyrocketed. No wonder Vegeta was terrified. Broly, once he mastered the Great Ape state, could dominate Super Blue. Axis was far stronger. Vegeta, you heard him. Stop acting like this. We've faced worse before. You were never like this, Goku shouted, hauling him upright. You don't understand, Kakarot. You simply don't understand. We can't beat him. We'll all be killed. Vegeta's voice wavered. Axis strode over and, fed up, picked Vegeta up like a chick. Relax. This is just a spar. Quit saying we're all going to die. Have I ever said that? Don't put words in my mouth. Get off him, Goku said, shaking his head. He intended to face Axis himself. You go too, Goku. It'll be a good chance to knock some sense into him. His legs are too weak for a prince, Axis sneered, then reached into a spatial pocket and produced a spirit tree fruit, handing it to Goku. Goku had just had a fierce fight with Frieza and was low on ki. Axis didn't like dishonorable advantages, so he offered the fruit to let him recover. What's this? Are you offering me something to eat? There's only one? Goku scratched his head. Don't misunderstand. It's a miraculous fruit. Eat it, and it will greatly increase your normal state power, heal all your injuries, and restore your ki, Axis replied. Oh, like a senzu bean. Thanks. Goku bit into the fruit. Immediately, a terrifying surge of life energy flooded him. Drained ki, fatigue, and wounds vanished, and his strength rose noticeably. This is stronger than a senzu bean, Goku grinned. Of course, your senzu beans are nothing compared to this, Axis said. The spirit tree fruit was far more potent than Karen's senzu beans. One came from an immortal attendant of a single-planet deity. This fruit was cultivated by the World King God himself, a god above gods. Whis approached, having seen the fruit. This appears to be a divine fruit, cultivated by the World King God on the World King God planet. But what you produced looks like a defective batch, grown on a planet. I hope you don't keep cultivating these. They'll siphon the life energy of an entire world. As an angel, he recognized the fruit, and his universe had no such thing. The implication that Axis might be from another universe nagged at him. I choose the places carefully, Axis retorted. It won't devour an entire planet. At worst, it'll desertify a patch of land that can recover in a few decades or centuries. The second-generation spirit tree fruit is powerful, but can be grown on ordinary planets without destroying them. If that's so, we'll discuss it later, Whis said with a knowing smile after examining the fruit more closely. It really was a planetary-grown batch, more defective than defective, but not world-consuming. Can we start now, Axis? Goku stretched and cracked his knuckles, eager. Of course, but go all out. Don't be like Vegeta, testing my strength bit by bit. You've already seen my power. This is me testing you. One more thing. Legendary Super Saiyan isn't even my strongest form. I can also become Super Blue. Whether I use it depends on whether you force me to, Axis warned. Fine, then I won't hold back. Goku roared, blue energy flaring as he transformed into his strongest form. He wasn't going to settle for Super Saiyan 1 or 2. He wanted to make Axis reveal his full strength. Axis only smiled and casually gestured for Goku to come. Goku vanished in an instant, and the super blue-tinted air around him condensed into a single, crushing punch that slammed into Axis's chest with a sound like a thunderclap. The impact dented the ground and sent a shockwave through the air. Axis didn't even shift. The golden-green aura around him barely quivered. He looked at the fist struck into his chest and grinned. Good power and speed, but not enough. A flicker of surprise crossed Goku's face, replaced immediately by renewed determination. You're strong. Try this then. He spun and drove a leg like an axe toward Axis's neck. Axis casually lifted his left arm to block. The collision rang like metal. The recoil sent Goku flying back. Kakarot, show me the spirit you had against Frieza and the God of Destruction. Let me see your limits. Axis challenged. Goku steadied himself midair, drew in a breath, and gathered Azure Ki between his palms. The light cut the sky as he launched a super blue Kamehameha, a blast far beyond what Vegeta had used earlier, straight at Axis's face. Axis snarled, met the beam with a single punch, and shattered it with his golden-green aura-wreathed fist. Goku's eyes narrowed. Sweat beaded on his brow. His full-power super blue Kamehameha had been stopped and broken by one hand. Axis then phased behind him, and with a sidekick sent Goku hurtling away. He kept up a relentless barrage, using only his feet to batter the Super Blue Saiyan into submission and force Goku to read his movements. Goku barely managed to track him. After a string of blows, he finally snagged Axis's leg. Got it, he panted. Axis only smiled. Not bad. Then a straight punch hurled Goku away again. Goku struggled to raise his head, grinning helplessly. The gap in strength was clear, but he kept pushing. Kakarot, get up. We'll take him together. A roar laced with humiliation and fury exploded from the ruins as Vegeta's name cut the air. Vegeta's pride had been crushed, but seeing Kakarot, the low-class Saiyan he'd hunted down, the man he despised and yet owed respect, keep charging the legend without retreat, ignited a flaring rage. Royal pride and warrior dignity surged up in him. He forced down the fear tied to his blood and transformed that terror into fury. Blue Ki flared higher and denser than before as he pushed past the legendary Super Saiyan shadow and became Super Saiyan Blue. Axis, don't get arrogant. I am Vegeta, Prince of all Saiyans, he roared. Axis simply smiled, tossed 2 second-generation Spirit Tree fruits to them, and watched. They weren't the toughest opponents, but the Saiyan pride was still there. Goku bit down on his fruit and steadied himself. His super blue aura exploded once more. The two flashed toward Axis from opposite sides, both concentrating their full power for a pincer attack. Warm-up's over. Time to get serious, Goku shouted. Axis punched out simultaneously to both sides. No showy techniques, just raw, overwhelming force. Then, with machine-like efficiency, he grabbed both their necks and began to batter them. Goku and Vegeta fought back with everything they had, but Axis's dominance was absolute. From a distance, Whis clapped softly, a slight smile on his face. What astonishing power! Universe 7 has truly attracted a remarkable guest. 399. Hairless Cat. Let's fight. Extreme squeezing. This guy really is powerful. My hands are twitching. I want to jump in. Lord Beerus, the god of destruction, had appeared beside Whis without anyone noticing. Lord Beerus, you'll definitely be interested, Whis said with a smile. He's the real legend, a Super Saiyan god. He should be the opponent from your dreams. A Super Saiyan god, huh? I'll fight him later, Beerus replied. This was his destined rival, someone he had faced to a stalemate many times in his dreams. Kratos glanced at the hairless humanoid cat standing before him. If this being were in their world, he'd be completely alien. What are you staring at, kid? Beerus narrowed his eyes and prodded his own ear, catching Kratos' look. Somehow Kratos' gaze held disdain, bordering on insult. Alien. You're not worthy to fight my father. I'll take care of you, Kratos snorted. His father had warned him not to steal the two opponents who turned blue, but this hairless cat clearly wasn't one of them. That meant he could fight him. Besides, the cat was obnoxious. Hey, alien isn't a very polite word, is it? Beerus said, mildly displeased. How about hairless cat, then? If you don't like it, come fight me one-on-one, Kratos shot back, imitating his father's taunting style perfectly. His father always said, if you want to fight, go get it. Hairless cat! You brat, I'll destroy you. Beerus' eyes narrowed in fury. Lord Beerus, please be merciful, Whis interceded quickly. This young man isn't malicious, he just defended his planet. Don't hit him too hard, just teach him a little lesson. Whis' tone carried weight. This was an important visitor. Beerus couldn't act recklessly, This wasn't even an existence native to his universe. Humph, fine. I'll use you to warm up. Come on, kid, Beerus said, practically spitting the word hairless as he flew after Kratos. Then I'll teach you a lesson, hairless cat, Kratos sneered and followed Beerus. The two streaked off toward another battlefield. Axis had no idea his son was provoking the god of destruction. He was too busy enjoying his own fight. Bang! Bang! Boom! The sky ruptured in explosions as two blue figures and one golden-green figure collided again and again. Axis watched, surprised, as the two who'd initially been overwhelmed were rapidly improving. From barely resisting, they were now coordinating blocks and counters. Ha! That's the Saiyan spirit, always getting stronger in battle. Axis pushed harder. Golden-green ki burst from him like a jet. Blue lightning crackled across his body, and his hair stood on end. He stacked his Super Saiyan forms and surged again. The power boost doubled. He pressed Goku and Vegeta down once more. Damn it! How strong is this guy? Vegeta gasped. Hey, could you lay off a bit? Goku pleaded, but Axis answered with a brutal punch that left him stunned. I already did. After a relentless barrage, Axis had Goku and Vegeta beaten black and blue, bones broken, barely clinging to life. They hadn't used their Saiyan passive, the near-death revival boost, in a long time. Axis decided to help them out. Open up, Axis barked, producing two spirit tree fruits and roughly shoving them into Vegeta and Goku's mouths. These were first-generation golden spirit tree fruits, the best version he had. Gulp, gulp. Both men swallowed. Their injuries vanished, and their power surged back. All right, be real men about it. Honestly, I've never seen the Saiyan near-death break in action for a massive power boost. Come on, get stronger so I can enjoy being beaten to a pulp, Axis said with a grin that begged for a good punch. Damn you, Vegeta spat, dripping sarcasm. Axis had deliberately pushed them to near death so they'd power up. Typical Saiyan behavior. Vegeta's glare could scorch. We're sorry our strength wasn't enough to make you use your full power, Goku said as he stood and stretched. After near death, a Saiyan's power increases a lot. Vegeta and I will change dramatically now. We're all Saiyans. Don't forget how we get after revival, Goku added with a chuckle as Axis charged. Don't hold back. Hit me with everything you've got, Axis called. Then we won't be polite, Goku said. Thanks to you, I can test a move I've been wanting to try. Kakarot, what secret move were you hiding? You didn't use it earlier, Vegeta snapped. Sorry, Vegeta. Before I couldn't perfect it. Using it wore my body down. But after that near-death bump, I'm ready, Goku replied. What move? Vegeta demanded. This is something I learned a long time ago. You were the first to see its true power back then. It's the Kaioken, Goku shouted. Crimson energy flared and wrapped around the blue ki he already had. This red aura wasn't Super Saiyan God power. It was Kaioken. Axis' eyes lit up. A technique that multiplies combat power. This was invaluable. He'd have to learn it after the fight. How many times can you use it now? He asked. About 20 times at most, Goku estimated. That should be enough. That's my cue, Axis grinned. Vegeta, any new moves? As the Saiyan Prince, you can't be content with just this. Watch me, Vegeta snapped. He was angry but determined. He'd show Axis his strength. Axis lashed out. The ground cracked beneath him as he rocketed forward and punched Goku hard. This time, though, Goku wasn't overwhelmed. He caught Axis' blow with one hand. Axis, don't underestimate me. I'm a Saiyan too. You know what happens after near death, Goku said lightly, then hopped up Axis' arm and kicked him in the face. Axis flew backward, crashing through mountain peaks. That kick had power. Axis spat blood but smiled. The protagonist of the Dragon Ball world lived up to expectations. Stabilizing himself, Axis pushed his power even further. His hair lengthened, his eyebrows faded, and he transformed directly into Super Saiyan 3. Goku and Vegeta, one red, one blue, rushed him again in seamless cooperation. One attacked while the other defended, alternating almost perfectly. Even Super Saiyan 3 Axis could only hold them at bay for a while. As the fight went on, Goku and Vegeta adapted to his attacks and slowly took a subtle lead. Ah, not bad! Axis forced them back, then began another transformation. Red light flickered, red fur sprouted over his upper body, his tail swished behind him. His hair turned black, and a crimson shadow framed his eyes. The change radiated raw, primeval power. What is this? Vegeta asked, stunned. This is Super Saiyan 4, Axis said. It's the primal release of Saiyan power, achieved through great ape transformation. If you want, I can teach you. Vegeta thought about it. He could keep his sanity in great ape form and, theoretically, could reach Super Saiyan 4 too. There was more potential to explore. 400. Pull out your tail. Vegeta Muzan, both Vegeta's and Son Goku's tails had long since vanished. For some reason, ever since they'd settled on Earth, a Saiyan's tail seemed unusually reluctant to regrow. Great ape transformation? Evolutionary transformation? Axis said. Have you two forgotten the single most important thing about Saiyan power? The tail, your great ape form, that's the source of Saiyan might, he continued. Goku looked baffled. The great ape was supposed to be that powerful? He'd only transformed once as a child, and the memory of accidentally crushing his grandfather was something he preferred to forget. After that, the World King God had removed his tail, and it never grew back in all the decades since. I know a Saiyan's power comes from his tail. The great ape form is part of our nature. How do you actually do the transformation? Can you teach us? Vegeta asked. Axis outlined it calmly. It's simple in steps, but there's a prerequisite. Your Super Saiyan state must already be pushed to its limit. If you're not at that limit, you can't become Super Saiyan 4. First, you must transform into a great ape by looking at the moon. Next, you become a golden great ape. The fur turns gold instead of black. That's the great ape in a Super Saiyan state. While in that form, you must clear your mind, regain sanity, control the great ape's power, and then combine it with your Super Saiyan energy. That fusion is Super Saiyan 4. It sounds straightforward, but can anyone actually keep his wits while a great ape? Goku scratched his head. Humph. A low-class warrior like you wouldn't manage it easily, but I'm high-class and of royal blood. I can remain in control. Remember how I smashed you when I turned Great Ape on Earth? Vegeta turned to Goku, proud and confident. If Super Saiyan 4 were as simple as Axis described, in theory Vegeta should be able to reach it. Oh, yeah. I remember now, Goku said. When you first came to Earth, you did turn Great Ape. You were terrifying. Back when Vegeta first fought him, he'd been outmatched. If Yajirobe hadn't ambushed and cut off Vegeta's tail, things would have been far worse. But Vegeta, your tail never grew back after that, did it? Goku added, glancing at the prince. 2 conditions were needed to become a great ape, a moon's projection to look at, and a tail. The moon part was easy. Earth already had one, and if needed, Vegeta could simulate one with Ki. The tail, however, was the real problem. It's odd, Vegeta grumbled. Ever since I settled on Earth, my tail never regrew. By rights, a Saiyan's tail should regenerate after some time. This is abnormal. Vegeta had mastered Super Saiyan power, but he'd never tried turning into a golden great ape while in the Super Saiyan state. In theory, that form would be immensely powerful. So what do we do? Does this mean we can't become Super Saiyan 4? Goku said. He could feel the energy Axis radiated, raw, feral, on a completely different level from theirs. Even Super Blue and a 20x World King Fist wouldn't be enough to beat Axis. Kakarot and I probably can't reach Super Saiyan 4 as we are, Vegeta admitted. I can make an artificial moon, but without tails, there's nothing to trigger the Great Ape. Axis smiled. Don't be discouraged. I can help you with the tails. You can make our tails grow back? Vegeta's eyes flashed. If he had a tail, he was confident he could become Super Saiyan 4. Kakarot's fate was less of a concern. Of course. Now take off your pants. Both Vegeta and Goku stared. Take off our pants? Why do we have to? It's simple. You have to pull out the tails, right? So take off your pants and get a large pair of pliers, Axis said, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. Goku and Vegeta exchanged suspicious looks. You're serious? Vegeta snapped. Trust me, my method is reliable. Axis explained that in an older version of Dragon Ball GT, Goku's Super Saiyan 4 transformation came about after his tail was pulled out. The same technique had been used then, devised by the Old World King God. Scientific and dependable, he claimed. Go get a sturdy set of pliers. Goku nodded and instant transmitted home. To Chi-Chi's astonishment, he rushed into the tool shed, grabbed a gigantic pair of pliers, and popped back. I brought them. Let's start. I'm really looking forward to seeing Super Saiyan 4, Goku said. Don't worry, now take off your pants and stick out your butt, Axis ordered, holding the giant pliers. Both Vegeta and Goku hesitated. "Okay, Kakarot, you go first. I'll give you this chance," Vegeta said quickly. "What? You want me to go first? You're better at this, Vegeta. You can control the great ape. I can't. You go, Goku protested. Fine, I'll go. Vegeta sighed, stepped forward, removed his pants, and turned around, exposing the base of where his tail had been. Axis's grin widened as he clamped the pliers around the base. It might hurt a bit. Bear with it. It'll be over fast. Axis took a firm grip on Vegeta's neck with one hand and the pliers with the other, then pulled with all his strength. Ah! Vegeta's scream split the sky, a howl that shook the clouds. He doubled over, clutching his backside. Stop acting like a child. It's just pulling out a tail. I'm not removing the whole thing, Axis complained. Try it yourself, then you'll see how much it hurts. Vegeta howled, still reeling. No pain, no gain. If you want Super Saiyan 4, endure a little hardship. Axis finished and pointed. Where Vegeta's tail had been, a black tail now dangled over a meter long, far longer than one could imagine hidden inside him. Humph, Kakarot, my tail is out. Now it's your turn. After yours is out, I'll make the artificial moon, Vegeta said through clenched teeth. Wait, teach me how to control the transformation first. I'm afraid I'll completely lose my mind as a great ape, Goku pleaded. Shh, you're such a pain. Listen, the key to controlling the great ape is having enough power and a clear mind. In that form, a Saiyan's wildness comes out. You have to suppress that wildness to stay in control. You should be able to learn it. After all, Raditz and Nappa both could manage it. The technique is like this. Vegeta explained the method briefly, demonstrating the mental discipline required. Axis listened from the side, taking it all in. Some argued the technique favored higher-class warriors, and that if you lost your sanity completely, the transformation could become a detriment rather than a help. Once Goku had the instructions, he was eager. Okay, Axis, pull out my tail too. Axis nodded, clamped the pliers around the base of Goku's tail, and pulled. Goku's scream echoed across the fields. I'll create the artificial moon now, Axis said, reaching out to form it. But then all three noticed an artificial moon already hanging in the sky, and a great ape's roar thundered from afar. That roar, Kratos had transformed. Who was he fighting?